Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm going to paint a little happy tree over here, another little happy tree over there. I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm sorry. Welcome to Geeky Geezers.
I heard it too. I was like,
I'm your
he's opening real smooth.
We should do the Bob Ross good old days tonight, huh?
Oh, we could do that too.
No, we'll save that for another week. Anyway,
splash a little Agent Orange in there, and no.
Splash a little Agent Orange in there. Wow. Okay. Yikes.
Some commie red. No. I'm the anti-Bob Ross.
Is this what would happen? Like when the camera went off, he'd start flipping. Cut. He's going off on one of his.
Actually, it's funny you say that because everything I've ever heard about him was he was genuinely like that. People said in real life he was really, really like that.
What?
Nice. Just smooth and nice, and
okay.
just I can imagine that. I like to believe it anyway.
Oh no. Imagine he's painting like a pile of skulls in his own house and stuff. I'm just saying, I don't know. Anyway, welcome to Geeky Geezers, everybody. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello.
How you doing tonight?
I am doing well. How are you?
Do you have tomorrow off?
I do. Of course, because I'm a contractor, that also means I don't get paid. So that's a kind of a double-edged sword there. But
well, that stinks. I'd like to welcome Netter, who I believe was first. Hi, sweetie. Thank you, Netter.
Like I said last night, she's the first in my heart, too. So there you go.
I love you, too. Well, I love you, too. Oh, that's for Netter. Never mind.
Okay.
Okay. Auditor Tread, good evening and happy Labor Day week at Agent Boomer and Troy Pacelli.
You see that? She because she's on the delay, she gets the jokes like 15 seconds after we make them. Now she's cracking up.
The line of Godfather comes to mind when looking at the MCU now. They massacre my boy.
I know, right?
Oh my word, what happened? I mean...
I know.
It seems like this has happened rather fast. I mean, when was Endgame? That was in 2019, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that was 2019. That was summer 2019. That was the big movie, summer 19, and it's kind of gone downhill since then. I mean, the third Spider-Man was all right, but I'm like everything else is just it's television, man. They make these TV shows and they don't know they. Okay, soundtracks with Birdman. Oh, you're posting that. I will not be on with him this week, but I believe he will have a Batman show tomorrow, so check it out in the afternoon. He does an afternoon show on Mondays. Have a great show, Geezers. Hoping they do Red Sonja justice. Blood and Honey just looks disturbing.
Don't count on it. Don't hold your breath.
Did you see my underneath the stream, my description for the stream tonight?
I didn't read it, no.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring up my own YouTube channel. I can't see the description, StreamYard. Actually. So anyways, there's some weird stuff going on in pop culture this week. It's like last week we have a ton of stories. This week we have enough. I feel like we kind of struggled. Oh, look at that. I'm live.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Congratulations. Let's keep it that way.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Here is what I put in the description because I'm at the point of I don't give a shit anymore. This join myself and PaPa.
Wow. When he starts using that kind of language, folks, you know there's something going on there.
Well, this is my description. Join myself and PaPa Pacelli as we discuss the latest in geek news. Winnie the Pooh goes apeshit, She-Hulk shakes her booty, and DC Comics celebrates tamales. That's the news tonight.
Kinda. That's kind of true.
This is. I don't know what happened. They don't care anymore.
No, they don't.
Now I want tamales, thanks.
Well, yeah, but you might not after this stream, let me tell you.
There's nothing wrong with tamales, but maybe there's more to Mexican heritage than just the food they eat. That's a possibility.
Reducing
right?
a whole group of people, a whole heritage to the fast food, not even the authentic food, but the fast food of their, I don't know. We'll get into it. I mean, if you really want to get into it, check out Latino Slant. And Mikey and Mexican Iron Man talking about it.
They were not pleased, I'm sure.
Oh no, not at all. No.
Matanui, hi. Welcome to the chat. Deleted scenes, welcome. Hail chat.
And one thing I want to say to the chat: not only thank you all for being here, thank you all for that are here in the future too, that just haven't gotten here just yet live. That's fine too. But those of you that stop in because you saw us share this out on Twitter, I would super appreciate it if you would leave a comment below, after the live chat is over, and let Boomer know that, because just before the stream, I was trying to let Boomer know how important it is to market yourself and market your channel. And I want him to see that when I put out the word on the Twitterverse, he'll get an extra 2 or 3 viewers.
We'll see. If the numbers were good last week, so I'm going to see what they're going to be like this week. Depensec, welcome. Zootopia, welcome. I think I already said hi to Matanui. All right. So, yeah.
And if we ever miss somebody, it's just because we juggling so much on these shows. It's not that we don't care, but that's why Netter's in the chat sending out her hi sweeties,
and dropping links.
Because she's Osmo that way.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
So, good old days, huh?
Tell me about the good old days.
So I guess we're talking about 80s sci-fi. I guess.
Well, it's kind of on our mind because
science fiction, not
yeah.
sci-fi.
Well,
Okay,
we used the term sci-fi back then too. It just didn't become mainstream until that cable channel, the Sci-Fi channel, or I guess it became the Sci-Fi channel.
We didn't sell SYFY. Okay.
Right.
Science fiction movies in the 80s.
Last night we were watching
Buckaroo Banzai.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. That's the full title. Crazy, crazy stuff.
Oh, my dad.
But the 80s pretty much was all about crazy stuff. I mean, bigger than life, way out there. There's a reason that Elton John, really came into prominence in the 80s, even though most people think, he kind of started in the 70s. He just hit big in the 80s because what was he about? Bigger, louder, crazier, over the top. And that was pretty much what epitomized sci-fi back then.
I have to say, as a kid growing up in the 80s, and I don't know if it's the same for kids that grew up in the 90s or other decades, but I look back at the 80s now, and the 80s in some respects feels more like the future than today, because you kept having new technology popping out. Like everything was new, brighter, better, faster, I'm not trying to quote Captain.
Well, we went past, I feel like the 80s sci-fi, 80s vision of the future, and even what we were kind of living through that prompted all of that was this very Star Trek-ish type, positive, optimistic look forward to the future. Yeah. Now we look at the technology of today, and we look at the politics of today, and we look at the sci-fi of today, and it's very dystopian, very bleak, very black pilling,
It's like being tossed into the Matrix, except real life.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley types want to do that to us, except it's not as cool because you look like knockoffs of the Nintendo Wii Me characters. I'm like, what are you doing to us?
Pretty much.
This is not my second life. No, thank you. Anyway, science fiction though, I have to tell you, going to Epcot Center in the 80s was fascinating because it was like you were stepping into the future.
That was, and the features that they had at Epcot was that very 80s. They had what was that? That thing that with Michael Jackson,
Captain EO.
Captain EO, that's what it was called.
In 3D.
Yeah. Oh, 3D was big too.
That was big 3D, yeah.
I think of A Treasure of the Four Crowns in 3D, and what was the one with? Wasn't it Molly Ringwald? It was a 3D sci-fi Space Hunter Across the Forbidden Zone or something like that.
When we get to our first sci-fi movie, did you like that one?
I did. I actually have that as part of a little 80s sci-fi DVD collection because I guess it wasn't really big enough to merit its own separate thing. But again, and I've said this many, many times, 80s 3D films were very different from the 3D films you're going and seeing in IMAX today. Modern day 3D very much depends. It partly depends on the IMAX. IMAX is so big and wraps around you that it automatically has that 3D feel to it, even when it's just 2D. But with the glasses, it gives you depth. It's like a shadow box. Nothing is coming at you off the screen. It's coming from the distance to as far as the screen goes. So you see depth. Whereas in the 80s, it was coming off the screen. Literally, there's a scene in Treasure of the Four Crowns where you're seeing it from the point of view of the hero character who's being held down and he's about to be tortured by the bad guy, and the bad guy has a hot poker, and the hot poker is glowing and there's smoke coming off of it, and he points it right towards the main character's forehead, and you're seeing it coming at you, and it's right between your eyes, and you can see your eyes cross, and you see the smoke coming off of it right in front of you. And no, you can't actually feel the heat, but your mind tells you can because you can see it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They haven't done anything like that since. It's a very different 3D process, and really expensive, and I understand that. But that's even what made Jaws 3 any good. Because you watch it in 2D, and except for the fact that Bess Armstrong is in it, there's really nothing good about it, you know?
Oh,
Louis Gossett Jr. was in it too. He's good too. But the 3D effects is what really got you. You know, that was a lot of fun. Seeing that shark literally coming at you off the screen. Better 3D effects for Jaws than in Back to the Future too, I gotta say.
Depends. Like, it's interesting you mentioned House of Wax 3D, because I remember when that was being shown on regular television, and there was a pizza Hut promotion where you go to Pizza Hut and you order such and such size pizza, and you get a couple pairs of free 3D glasses to go watch this House of Wax 3D on TV.
Oh,
and it would be the actual 3D
okay.
version. I remember when that happened. Now, of course, that's from the 50s.
Yeah.
House of Wax,
that was yet another style of 3D. So there was another right around that time in the 80s on Svengoolie. It was Son of Svengoolie back then, and it was only local. He wasn't a national superstar yet, but syndicated. He was doing a viewing of what was it, the Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D, and that style of 3D, and you'd have to go to 7-Eleven and pick up, and they were cheap. They were cheap. You could buy, however many you needed for your house or whatever. And it was the old green red. So one lens was red and the other one was green.
Right.
And the film was black and white, but it was edged with a little bit of green on one side, a little bit of red on the other. So when you watched it, like the modern 3D, it didn't come out it came off a little bit, but not like in your face. And it was like you could see the fish like in the background, and you could see the person swimming closer, and maybe some bubbles would come up a little bit closer.
Like the woman in the swimsuit, her feet.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
That's nice. But but that's the same kind of 3D you would get back in the 80s. It was real popular in like kids magazines, like what was that? What was that magazine that they had monthly for kids? It was, oh darn, and it commonly had
highlights.
No, highlights. That was 70s, and that was for younger kids. This was a teenage magazine. I want to say
Mad Magazine.
I don't know.
Crack?
I'm gonna 80s teen magazine. I don't remember what it was called.
Hold on.
Somebody's gonna shout it out in the chat though.
Dynamite.
That's it.
There
Thank you. Dynamite magazine. Yeah.
I got a really cool poster for Star Trek in there that had the newer Enterprise on it. I remember that.
Bananas was actually another one. They were pretty. That was more of a humorous type one. But yep. I loved that. And but yeah, that would focus on a lot of, and getting back to the sci-fi, it would focus on a lot of, because sci-fi was big at the time. Why? Well, obviously, it was everyone trying to capitalize on the popularity of Star Wars, which was late 70s, and
that's what it was.
Yeah, but then it came into its own, really.
Yeah, because you had like Back to the Future. That's a science fiction movie series.
Absolutely,
but that's not really trying to be like Star Wars. Maybe it's trying to capture some of that same magic, because it still felt kind of like a Spielberg style movie, even though I don't. Was he a producer on it? I don't think he directed it.
I don't know.
He didn't direct it, but but I remember. No, but you really could, as a kid, believe a lot was possible. The movie Weird Science with
Weird Science. I love that one. Some great lines in that one too.
Because back then people thought the computers were magic, and if you had a computer, you could create a woman.
My gosh, Weird Science.
Yes.
What was the one with Whopper and Ferris Bueller? War Games. War Games was another one.
The intelligent
the way he could hack into the government computer, and it's like back then anyway. It's like you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. But it was just magic. You even see it up into the late 90s, early 2000s with Independence Day. How somehow with a Mac they could hack into an alien computer. I'm like, well, that makes sense. A Mac can communicate and hack into an alien computer because it doesn't work with anything on this Earth.
Okay. Okay. So 80s sci-fi could leak to Escape from New York, The Terminator, The Road Warrior.
Yeah.
I typically think of bleak science fiction though from the 70s though, stuff like Soylent Green. And,
but the thing was that even with like Terminator, you get this Terminator 2, and they were planning to have a dark ending, and they still gave it a positive ending. There was always hope. There was always, a faith in heroism. I don't know, but
Little Maniacs like diverse. Maybe we'll save a whole Weird Science thing for next time.
But there's that whole and I guess I would say this for anybody that I know that back when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, we used to have sock hops, which were you dress up in a 50s style.
What?
Oh, sure. So I'm sure that these days there's probably like 80s dances and stuff. So when you're looking at your styles. 80s was big hair. It was big, bright, neon-colored sunglasses.
Yep.
White suits with huge shoulder pads.
Yep.
Both men and women.
The shoulder pad's not so good on the women, I thought, but that's just me.
Actually, through the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and even into the 90s, I would say even the goofiest styles looked good on women and stupid as hell on men. Okay, 70s had bell bottoms and hip huggers, and on women they looked kind of sexy. On guys, they looked really stupid. On women, the shoulder pads of the 80s, it was okay. It was On guys, stupid as all hell. Okay, the hairstyles, that mullety type thing. Women could pull it off. Guys looked like ding-dongs,
Ding-dongs, that was also a snack food.
Yeah, right.
Big Al says, anyone remember Megaforce? Do you remember Megaforce, the movie he's talking about?
I remember the movie poster. I don't think I saw it.
It had Persis Kambata in it. I believe she was in it. The one who was in Star Trek motion picture. The bald alien chick, remember?
Oh, Ilea. Okay.
Yeah, Ilea. Yeah, she's in it. And it was like an international team. Like you had like a Russian guy, a French guy, an American guy, and I think they were there to stop evil. I know that Henry Silva was the villain because they were showing it on Joe Bob Briggs's Monster Vision one night, and he was getting really angry because they're like, it's like Megaforce. He kept trying to talk at Megaforce. He's like, who's the monster in this movie supposed to be? Henry Silva? The show is called Monster Vision. He wants monster movies, not this thing. But I don't know much more about the movie than that. But
well, and that was 80s was also very characterized by the Cold War and stuff. We were just talking about Buckaroo Banzai. There was a lot of references to the Russians and starting World War II. What I said, War Games was all about a computer almost starting World War III between the Russians and the Americans. And
remember 2010?
2010, the year we made contact. Yeah. I was saying last night that I actually saw that in the theater because our grade school took us to see it as a what's it called? A field trip.
Wow.
It
that's
was a
nice.
science. The science class was trying to build up people's interest in like NASA and space and stuff like that.
That was interesting because in that movie, it's the Americans and the Soviets having to go off, and I guess a joint thing to find out what happened to the ship from 2001, and that was
Right.
interesting because you have the American astronauts and the Russian astronauts having to work together. So
Well,
and
and
you know,
that
it's
was
the future Soviet Union's still around. In
that
this
was kind of the
future.
interesting thing about not only the films of the time, but the actual politics of the time too. There was this idea that because of this concept of mutually assured destruction, right? MAD. The whole reason that there was no World War III was because the Russians and the Americans both knew that both sides had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the Earth many times over. Neither side wanted to be completely wiped out, which would be the most likely outcome of a global thermonuclear war, that nobody would actually press the button, right? And the only time we ever got close, there was actually more than one, it was entirely because of computer errors, and it was humans scrambling to keep it from happening. But there was in media there was this hopefulness that over time the Russians and the Americans would unify, and you saw that very much with Gorbachev and Reagan constantly trying
Glasnost,
to
right? That was
Glasnost and all of that, trying to unify. Heck, it was under Reagan we saw the Berlin Wall come down and Germany be reunited. So we were definitely having that kind of optimism. And you look at the films of the 80s, even the ones that focused on the fighting between the Russians and the Americans, it always had this undercurrent. Best example, Rocky IV. Right? The whole focus was a boxing match between the American champion and the Russian champion, and it's pretty brutal. And at the end, they come to this, great speech that Sylvester Stallone gives about this hope that we can find a way, that if all the fighting that we do is like this in the ring, that's great because we are hoping that we can unify in the future,
Well, remember the part of his speech when he says, at the beginning of this match, I think you hated me. He's talking to the audience, and I hated you, but I don't think I hate you as much, and I don't think you hate me as much after this match. And I think that was and I'm sorry, that was a good moment. I thought
that was absolutely it. Unfortunately, I don't feel like that lesson really took hold because I think there's still too many people that are quick to hate the Russians just cause commie bad, Russia bad. They're the bad guys always. And they can't be objective about what's going on really in the world.
I guess I just don't feel like we're marching toward the future anymore like we were in the 80s. Not that I want to end this on a down note, but of course there were dystopian future movies in the 80s, like a lot of my favorite Arnold movies, like Total Recall and The Running Man. The Running Man might come true.
Running Man, definitely. I'm not sure that Total Recall's the best example of that.
No, but Running Man is funny because it's.
I think
news and entertainment the same thing,
Yeah, Total Recall was a great example of, and I see it coming true in some of the technology of today, the way social media is and the immersive.
Total Recall's 90. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Had a similar. Sometimes the lines blur. We draw these artificial lines between December 1979 and January 1980, but there's some blend there.
But you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Well, I did, but go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I look at the technology and what's real and what isn't, and I really feel like that's kind of how our technology has become. Now this whole push to the metaverse, I'm like, I don't want to go Matrix Total Recall. I've seen those movies. I got those warning lessons. And historically, that's what sci-fi has always been. It's been warnings about things that haven't happened that at the time couldn't happen, but might be able to happen in the first place, right? Eventually with technology, we'll have robots, AI, running our lives, possibly making decisions for us that we can't change and alter, manipulating the information that we get, therefore manipulating how we think, right? Manipulation of our own genomes and what we might do to ourselves as a species as a result, Yeah, heck, there's even all the time travel stories. There's no way that's even close to possible, but who knows how it could be in the future. But we tend to ignore them because they're not possible now. We don't have a temporal vision to be able to say someday, let's be ready for it.
Here's what makes science fiction believable, especially like in Back to the Future. The fact that there are rules that get set up.
Yeah,
there are rules like, here's the flux capacitor. I've created this marvelous. It's called the flux capacitor. Okay, don't run into yourself. The universe could explode. Like you didn't know, or cause a like Doc Brown is setting up all these things you can't do while time traveling, and I think that makes it more believable than it's just anything goes. But remember the movie Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid and Kate Capshaw? Remember that?
Ah, yes. Oh my gosh, I love that movie.
Your dreams with machinery. That was a thing.
I'm pretty sure that I did a watch party on that too. If I didn't, I really should. That was the precursor to. I mean, if anyone has seen, what was the one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Inception.
Inception. It was basically Inception, but back in the 80s. It was these psychics who had this ability, boosted by a machine usually, to go into people's dreams and manipulate their thoughts or assassinate them, going on the whole premise that if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. And the government had figured out a way to do that, and they sent in this baddie to go in and assassinate the president.
I remember that, yeah. And the president's nightmare dream, because the president had to go in for servicing, was that he was having nightmares about a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah,
and it was
and he's like, "This is all my fault."
Yeah, in the dream, he's seeing everything, all the burning. He says, "This is all my fault. I caused this." Because of course, you think about in the '80s, height of the Cold War, there must have been tremendous pressure that you might screw up and cause the end of the world if you're the president of the United States. And of course, that's when the bad guy decided, I'm going to slip in here, and he used a nightmare creature from the because they were trying to cure a boy of chronic nightmares too, right? And
right,
he dreamed about a snake man that was always after him, so he
took that form. There's this great bit, and it makes for a great GIF. To share on the internet. He kills somebody in the dream, not like a real person, but a dream character, and he sticks his hand through the guy's back and pulls out his beating heart, right? Very 80s grisly kind of thing. Yeah. And the heart's beating in his hand. And he goes, "Here, have a heart," and throws it at the protagonist. It's just,
It's the 80s.
It was the 80s. That was the 80s, yeah.
I wonder how different Total Recall would have been if David Cronenberg directed it. He was the original choice.
Oh my gosh.
It would have been a completely different movie. It would have been an interesting movie, I have no doubt, because I do love David Cronenberg. But I also love Paul Verhoeven, and I do love what he did with that movie. But yeah. Let me see. Altered States. I still need to watch Altered States. In fact, my sister got that for me on Blu-ray.
I love what Horizon. Oh yeah, Altered States. That one is. Yeah, that one's very intense. That led to my interest in Jungian psychology, actually. For the record, I do have a temporal drive. It moves me towards the future in 1 second per second increments. But you know what? You want to accelerate that? Take a plane flight. You get on a plane and it actually, relativistic speeds, moves you a fraction of a second faster than everyone on the ground. You want to be even faster than that? Orbit in the International Space Station. You by the time you come back, you'll have moved forward in time minutes faster than we have. So just something to think about.
Back in time, so I could buy all the video games I couldn't afford when I was a kid. But anyway.
Well, no, but see, this is moving forward. This is going to see what the future is like. We haven't figured out how to go the other direction yet.
Well, we'll see.
Even though when you're stuck in traffic during rush hour, you feel like you're going slow enough that you're going negative speed and should be going back in time.
But yeah, but science fiction in the '80s, it was neat. I'll say
This is why, us geezers do this. We talk about the good old days. We go on Mr. Mashtick's channel and talk about this stuff on Culture Fortress just to give you some ideas of some movies to check out, because you don't know what you're missing, and you'll thank us later. Trust me.
And let's see, I will be appearing on 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser's channel for Toxic Tuesday. Panel will be discussing the movie Black Rain. Please sub Nick's channel. It's funny, we watched that on Birdman's channel recently, and I'd never seen that movie before. Not a science fiction movie, though people have argued, since it took place in Japan in the 80s, it kind of had that, I guess, Blade Runner feel to it, because
sure.
I'll say this, from what I've heard, Japan in the 80s, that was like their 1920s, like the roaring 20s for us. That was like Japan in the 80s, like a lot of money going around and stuff. And of course that crashed for them eventually. But
well, those bubbles always burst, and people that are financially wise know this, and they see it coming.
Anyway, I guess we have to come back to the present, though.
All right. Let's talk about the news. What's going on in the world
weird
today?
science, though. Maybe we'll do good old days on that next week, if I think.
We should. We really should.
That movie with a passion. Okay. Marvel MCU.
Jeez.
We don't talk this much about Marvel MCU. We've been sparse on this
because we, and actually most of our audience, have really lost interest in Marvel.
I'm sorry.
It's gotten so bad.
There's no plan. There's no captain at the helm. This is
no. When they lost Feige, they lost all the momentum of their.
Haven't that one directing team of brothers left too?
Yep.
I heard they were leaving too. Who's left? It's okay, but here we go.
Kevin Feige and his diversity team. That's all that's left.
Fantastic Four, Penn, bagged
Gossip Girl. That's his name.
Okay. Badgley. Okay.
Okay, Badgley, sure.
I don't know. Okay. Well, you would know. I didn't watch Gossip Girl.
Yeah, Netter and I watched Gossip Girl. Okay. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I will watch some shows I wouldn't normally watch because.
Okay, how many shows have I watched that I didn't watch?
No, exactly. This is what happens.
It's fine.
It's just that what's this guy done since then? He's Gossip Girl, is what he is. And guys, let me be clear. I am not just saying that he was in Gossip Girl. He was Gossip Girl. Spoiler for those of you that didn't see the last episode of Gossip Girl. He turns out to have been Gossip Girl.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, there you go. That's interesting. It was the dude all along. All right. You just ruined. Okay, rumor is the Russo brothers.
I'll tell you, the fans of Gossip Girl were having almost the same reaction that fans of Game of Thrones did in the last episode.
Is this like saying Elmo's fire is a dream in an autistic boy's head?
Yeah, something like that. No, it was what it came down to is it was more like a J.J. Abrams kind of thing. They think they're being clever, but when you look at it, it's like that doesn't make any flippin' sense. Because, okay, so I'm sorry, I got to do this. Give me a second to explain Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl is about a bunch of teenage rich kids. It was cancel culture before we had cancel culture, right? We had social media and all this stuff, people texting and doing all the things, and rumors would spread about people in the school through this unknown source, this not bot account, but no one knew who Gossip Girl was. Gossip Girl was the name of this social media personality who would put out gossip about all the people in the school, right? And it could have been anybody. It was the characters was voiced by, whenever someone would read the social media blast from, like a narrator, it was what's her name? The one that played Veronica Mars. She was in The Good Place. That blonde girl. You know who I mean?
Veronica Mars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, it was her. It was her voice, and she
Okay.
even did a guest appearance one time, and it was kind of like a little tongue in cheek kind of thing. It was like, oh, so she's Gossip Girl, right? But nobody knew for sure, and people would take the time to say, well, it couldn't be this person because they,
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell, that's what it was. It was her name was the one at the end of the episode, who would say, you love me, XOXO, Gossip Girl.
Let's see.
But they would process of elimination. Well, it can't be this person because this person was doing this at the time, and and this person didn't know about any of this, so it couldn't have been. And they were nowhere near there to get that picture, and blah 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 blah. And then when it turned out to be this dude, and they had like some half-assed explanation for why he did it to ruin people's lives and this and that. His life had been so screwed up by Gossip Girl. The Gossip Girl had known things that he couldn't have possibly known about or had access to information about. It just didn't work. It was very clear they just put all the main characters up on a board, threw a dart, and said, okay, it's him. He's Gossip Girl, Anyway, has nothing to do with any of this, but anyone who watched Gossip Girl is like, oh, really? Gossip Girl's going to be Reed Richards. But that's not even the worst. The worst is that the fans were expecting it to be, what's his name?
We were expecting it to be Trachtenberg from Buffy.
No. You're talking Gossip Girl. I'm on to Fantastic Four here. You're 15 seconds in the past. The dude from that got spaghettified by Wanda. Yeah, John Krasinski. That's who everyone was expecting it to be.
Well, that's what
And
people wanted.
I don't care who they had decided to make. It's not him. That is just a big FU to the fans.
Well, whoever they cast in that WandaVision movie should have been the actor they were going to pick for the main role. If it wasn't going to be Krasinski, then they should.
Well, that tells you the kind of intelligence they have running Marvel Studios these days.
Let's read the article.
Yeah, go ahead. Read the article.
Almost no MCU movie has been part of more fan discussions as of late than Fantastic Four, which was officially confirmed to open Phase 6 during Marvel Studios' San Diego Comic-Con presentation. And now, with WandaVision director Matt Shakman reportedly in talks to be this film's director, attention turns towards the cast. John Krasinski brought the MCU's first Fantastic Four member to life with his portrayal of Reed Richards in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness only a few months ago. But after fulfilling many fans' wishes in that movie, it seems unlikely that he'll return to play the Earth 616 version of Mr. Fantastic in the MCU's first F4 solo movie. That's what they're calling the Earth 616?
I guess.
There's some that say that's a sign of something else.
That's 666.
The other people argue it's 616. They say that
it's only 5 short.
Okay, anyway,
or 50 short. I can't
Let's
even do
move
my
on.
math.
Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige specifically explained that the team would look for the best actor for the job for Fantastic Four, regardless of popularity, with the search for the right stars being an extensive one. But now, a recent report indicates that Marvel might have their eye on at least one member of the high-profile cast. See, this is what I don't understand. If they weren't going to use Krasinski for their movie, why not get the actor who previously played Reed Richards in the old Fantastic Four Fox movies?
That would have made sense too, because then they could say, we've already established him as part of the multiverse. He's not who we're going to use going forward, but we used him
like
in the
how
past.
you have Patrick Stewart guest starring as Professor X.
Exactly. Even though if they do anything with the X-Men going forward, they're probably not going to use Patrick Stewart, right?
Well, yeah, I understand that, but
yeah,
James McAvoy might make sense. I don't know what they're planning to do.
If it makes sense, they're probably not going to be doing it.
Former Birth Movies Death editor-in-chief David Faraci revealed on the Marvel Vision podcast that Marvel Studios has spoken with Penn Badgley to star as Reed Richards, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic, in Fantastic Four, which will premiere in theaters on November 8th, 2024. Most recently, John Krasinski played a now-deceased variant version of Richards in 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. With Faraci, Faraci expressed his hopes for a black Mr. Fantastic, He expects that the MCU's version is going to be very traditional. I've long been stumping for a black Reed Richards. I think John David Washington would be an incredible Reed Richards. I mean, I've been stumping for this forever, and I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get a black Reed either. Reed Richards is going to be very traditional, is my guess. That whole conversation just seemed awkward to me. What he was just saying there. Okay.
Yeah, it's another virtue signal. Let's squeeze in a race swap just to add crap to the craptastic pile.
Even if you're going to go on the route, if there's like a black actor you really like and want to cast in the part, that's different than saying a black Reed Richards. Just because I'm not understanding any of this. Okay, the guys that Marvel Studios been talking to have been talking about it are all white guys. That guy Penn Badgley from the show You.
Imagine that. I mean, after 60 years of comics of a white man as Reed Richards, the idea that you would want to cast someone that looks like that in the role. I mean, what are people freaking thinking?
There's no one steering the ship.
Right.
I don't. How did Marvel disintegrate so fast? Even when Lucasfilm was doing their disasters, I felt Marvel was still at the worst competent. I mean, I know I've argued this. I've tried to actually be fair to Marvel until they started with these television series. I mean, granted, I had my own issues with Endgame, but I figured, even in comic books, you get a bad run or a bad movie once in a while. You can still correct course, but I don't know what they're doing now. Well, anonymous insiders like Great Pulse have claimed Badgley's name is in the Reed Richards casting conversion. So you don't like this actor? Is that what you're saying?
I don't mind him. I don't like anyone besides John Krasinski being cast at this point. Because
they could have cast Emily Blunt as his wife would be.
Absolutely. So
she's on good terms with Disney anyway. So
yeah.
I don't know. She was Mary Poppins and stuff. I don't.
But what it comes down to is, and this was the one possible. Maybe silver lining could be if there's any intelligence over there at Marvel, which I doubt there is. But let's just give them the benefit of some doubt. If they are casting this kid, maybe as a younger Reed Richards, maybe in the first movie they're doing a period piece set in the 50s or something like that, and Reed Richards and the team are, instead of going to be the first to go to outer space, they're going to be the first to go to the microverse, right? They're in competition with people like Hank Pym and whatnot, right? And they're already established storyline there, and they kind of get lost, and when they come back they've aged, kind of like Michelle Pfeiffer in Ant-Man, right? So you have this kid playing Reed Richards, and then when he comes out it's John Krasinski, and I could totally see it because he's got that look. He looks like he could be a young John Krasinski, or even he's got some similar looks to Ian Grufford. I don't remember what that Welsh kid's name was that played the role back in 2005, but that very similar Reed Richards look,
616 is law inside number for comics mainline.
Yeah, so to then call the cinematic universe 616 is, I can't buy it, because clearly this is not the same universe.
That was the Ms. Marvel actress was complaining about that. Because she actually reads the comics. Sometimes the actors know more than the people running things about some of the stuff.
But it also shows you how much influence most of these actors have over anything.
Endgame had problems, but it's mile ways from the quality of the current MCU direct. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yup. Absolutely. But I'll tell you what, Endgame showed where it was starting to go off the cliff. That's where it was starting to slip.
I think it had a lot of weight on its shoulders because I think they were trying to tie up a lot of stuff while still leaving things open for expansion, and they had to write some characters out.
No, I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to say they started to capitulate. That's when they started to do the let's get Captain Marvel in there, and let's get the woman power stuff. And they literally sacrificed good storytelling and things that would have, made sense for the fifis of the SJWs. And it just started the trend that resulted in where we're at today. Not that I'm saying that this casting of Gossip Girl as Reed Richards has anything to do with anything SJW related. It's just clearly not giving a flying fig what the fans want.
Problem with casting Emily Blunt as the Invisible Woman, believing men will believe Emily Blunt can be invisible. Jules. Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, that's always been the case with Sue Storm, right?
I'm still on the Blake Lively part. Oh, I guess from Gossip Girls.
From Gossip Girl. Good for you.
It's funny.
I don't blame you. I mean,
I didn't watch
Ryan Reynolds is giving you a thumbs up.
I didn't watch Gossip Girl, but I know Taylor Momsen was on that show, right? Now she's a singer in a rock band, right?
Yes, kind of a I don't know, like a punkish goth type of thing.
What was funny about that was though I for some reason I had avoided watching the Jim Carrey Grinch movie, so when I finally watched it, out of curiosity, I decided, well, did the young actress ever go on to be in anything? And then I look up Taylor Momsen, and I'm watching this rock video, and it's like not what I expected.
Well, and that's exactly why she just decided to get out of acting. She wanted to pursue a music career, and although it's not my area of music, my understanding she's been fairly successful in that.
Yeah, she's a very she's like a rock goddess. She's a very sexy young woman. Also,
good on her.
It's like, let's see here though. I agree. I would say Captain Marvel's film was the start of the woke movement instead of telling a story. Endgame also added to it. Yes. Okay, but anyway, so recently Gotham star Drew Powell threw his own name to play MCU's Ben Grimm the Thing, and the Mandalorian director Bryce Dallas Howard has denied rumors of being cast as Sue Storm. No matter the rest of the team comes together, anticipation is building to see this cosmic quartet finally take their place in the MCU. Well, we'll see what they do, right? I don't know.
I won't be, because I don't watch Marvel anymore at all. Endgame was the last thing that I watched. I tried watching some of their like WandaVision and whatnot. Once WandaVision ended, I said, that's it. I can't do this anymore. The
last Spider-Man was all right. I'll say that. It was.
I don't count that as MCU though.
That's true. I called that the Spider-Man reunion special.
Yeah.
But let me see. Martin Scorsese was right. She-Hulk latest episode with Megan Thee Stallion twerking leaves internet divided.
Not very divided. There's a very small minority of people that think that was good. Most people know it's a bunch of idiocy.
I was watching your boy Zach's video on that. Okay, the witty conversations, funny one-liners, and hilarious antics in Marvel's movies, TV series, products have been the subject of scrutiny from people who want Marvel to do a serious project for once, and She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law's latest episodes played a part in amplifying the voice of those people simply by showing us this one scene. Martin Scorsese's words about Marvel's works in 2019 seem to be aging like honey. With the release of this new episode from the Jessica Gow's Disney Plus series, those words have ended up resonating with a lot of the audience who want a serious tone in Marvel movies. But there's always two sides to the coin that people tend to overlook in these situations. Jessica Gow's She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law has been one of the most criticized shows of the year. The reasons for all the hate this show gets aren't unwarranted, too. Fans have complained about bad CGI, unnecessary woke symbols, a plot that couldn't hold a candle in the dark, and is living off the excitement that cameos bring. Cue the scene where Abomination is shown.
Yeah.
The latest episode of the superhero legal comedy adds to the list of problems that fans see in the show. Popular American rapper Megan Thee Stallion makes a cameo in the show in which a shape-shifting light elf from New Asgard takes her form to dupe Jen Walters. This was all fine and dandy for the diehard She-Hulk fans watching the show. At the end of the episode, there was a clip in which Megan Thee Stallion was shown teaching She-Hulk how to twerk. This led to rants about how sick fans are of Marvel's over-the-top humor and now the over-sexualization of women in its shows and movies. This is honestly a bit embarrassing, but as I said, there are always two sides to the coin that people tend to overlook. One is Calm Your Horses. The twerking scene is completely fine. She-Hulk twerking has riled up a lot of Marvel fans simply because of character that is superhuman strength and big in size, mind you. Add being also a lawyer to the top of that is indulging in such an activity that makes her look goofy and ridiculous. Okay. And
No,
okay.
I'm going to argue that right there. It is not fine. When you actually put resources into the CG of making somebody twerk, instead of putting that effort into making the CG look good, you have no business making this show, period.
Yeah.
If everything else was on point, if it was a good show with good special effects, good CG that wasn't uncanny valley bullshit, and they threw that in there, I'd say, okay, if that's the worst this has to offer, they're doing okay. But it ain't.
What was funny is that the same character on the show was lecturing Bruce Banner on how she has to how she prevents herself. I prevent myself from getting angry every time I'm catcalled, and I'm like,
yeah. But I'm gonna go, do this bullshit. It's very clear that the powers that be over there are sending mixed messages. That's the best, most generous way that I can put it.
Yeah, Auto Dread. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Can we address how disjointed the narrative show? She claims she handles anger better than Bruce because she's always catcalled or being talked down to by them. Then we have She-Hulk twerking. I don't know. I know that that one guy, the former network executive, talks about shows. Have you seen his channel at all? Don't know what I'm talking about.
No.
Okay. He's an older guy. Apparently, he used to be a network executive, but he was reviewing She-Hulk. He said he's not watching any more episodes after episode 3 because he said this show is basically supposed to be like he looks at it as a sitcom, but he says most shows like a sitcom, they establish the supporting cast by now. There should be a supporting cast. If you look back to Ally McBeal, actually, Troy, you may think of Peter McNichols, the Biscuit. Remember him?
Oh, okay, sure.
So all the different characters on the show, it's an ensemble thing, and you're supposed to be that. But She-Hulk has yet to do that on this show. I haven't seen it.
Well, and you know what?
Yeah.
Going back to the title of this article, Martin Scorsese was right. He took a lot of flack from superhero fans, but they're focusing on the wrong thing. It's not because they're superheroes. It's because the writing just ain't frickin' there,
With Megan Thee Stallion embracing her sexuality, like what are they going for here? The fact that the writers avoided traditional legal drama due to the incompetence of the writers. I'm curious. It's not really a legal drama. I thought they were going to have courtroom sessions that were. I thought the idea behind the show was.
And that's the kind of stuff that would make this
superheroes,
especially in this era of the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, trial and all that kind of stuff. That made it very clear how interested audiences are in, the courtroom, and its procedures. Heck, just the courtroom procedurals. My cousin Vinny, for crying out loud. People enjoy this kind of thing. It's a different kind of fighting, right? Instead of your superheroes duking it out in the streets, it's a superhero fighting, a legal thing in the courtroom.
Like I imagine with Blonsky, the argument would be, hey, I was turned. The government didn't tell me that the serum they stuck in me was going to make me go nuts, and then I got more stuff stuck in me. But I got the gamma radiation on me. But that was after I had that.
Those are good, compelling ideas. It's not really
my fault. I should be the one suing the government, not being in jail. He could make that argument. Right?
There is a reasonable argument to be made there. Yes, ironically.
I'm trying to think what else, and I don't know if that's what they were going to go with that storyline. But do you remember the episode of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, where Superman was being sued? Remember?
Oh yeah, right.
I like that episode because it's like I think he does. I think he tries saving something or something happens, but then some guy gets his arm broken. I'm going to sue you, Superman. And he has to get a lawyer. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it's like,
and those kind of cases, and. It seemed kind of jarring to be coming from a DC character because that kind of storyline was very much more Marvel, and that is what not only Jennifer Walters but Matt Murdock were all about. A lot of their stories revolved around court cases that were, germane to superheroes. And you could totally see these dramas playing out. They're not touching any of that. Again, they're pushing aside good storytelling to get across their propaganda.
Were they going to have Matt Murdock show up on this show? I can imagine that.
They should have done, yes.
And he goes, well, I don't know what it's like being a superhero, but I do know, like, I can see him saying that.
That would be funny. That would be funny. And that line would have to come into it. But, yeah, and that would be the other important thing is that they would having them on opposite sides of a case.
Yeah, that's what I
expected. But that requires a level of sophistication, right? That same kind of thing where we talk about with the Orville, seeing both sides of an argument, right? Where you're kind of rooting for both sides because it's kind of hard to draw that line. The writers that they have can't think that subtly. It's you're an istophobe if you're on one side. This side is the only right side.
Yeah.
And most legal cases aren't like that.
Father Dread, I do need to catch up on Better Call Saul. So I did watch the first season. I need to get back into it. I got busy with school and stuff.
I've actually heard that about Better Call Saul. I never watched
Breaking Bad.
I
know that this is a prequel. I don't know if you need prior knowledge of Breaking Bad or not to watch this.
Oh, okay.
It takes place before.
Okay.
But Breaking Bad's an excellent show too.
Sounds like it really limits how many seasons it could have then, because it'll start to butt up against Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I don't know how they resolved it. I guess I will when I eventually watch it. I have access to it. It's on my AMC Plus. I just sit around and watching it.
If we only had infinite time, right?
Yeah, I need to catch up on Walking Dead, or maybe I don't. When I start sympathizing with Negan, there's a problem.
Well, yeah, you got me there. Yeah,
Negan's not perfect, but fewer people have died under his watch than Rick Grimes. That's what I came to the conclusion on that show.
Yep.
But Call Me Shadow, former network executive. Oh yeah, that's.
I've seen some of his videos. He's got some really funny stuff.
He shows up on Midnight's Edge. So
very cutting. Yeah, he's a great contributor to Midnight's Edge too. Yeah.
No one has been able to explain the plot of She-Hulk to me. Oh well,
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I could describe to you what the plot should be, what would be a good plot for it, how it was billed to be, but what it actually is, it's just more, men bad, listen to the message, and if you don't like it, you're an istophobe. That's what it really is.
You didn't save my life, you ruined my death. That was either from that episode of Lois and Clark or was from The Incredibles. That might have been from The Incredibles. Okay, so let's move on to apparently the this Fantastic Four movie is having ramifications toward other productions.
Yeah, and it's very telling about some of what's going on behind the scenes too.
So this is Matt Shackman, who's the hired director for Fantastic Four. It means Star Trek 4 loss another director, and to this I have to say this: Star Trek 4, not the original Star Trek 4, Abrams' Star Trek 4, does not exist. It doesn't exist. It's not happening.
Yeah, this is still going on.
I am done. Since
it is still going.
This channel,
No. Yeah, this article is still going on the premise that it's, in quotes, in the works. But I've been very vocal about this on this channel and a little bit on my channel that, every time you hear more and more about a JJ versus Star Trek 4, all it is trying to gin up interest by investors. It always fails because you can say whatever you want, the numbers ain't there, and anybody who's got money is intelligent enough to know not to spend their money on something that is a sure failure.
I'm sorry. I think the Abrams Trek movies have not really worked. I I was all right with the first one, even though maybe I shouldn't have been. But I was like, okay, they have to reboot. They have to get a new generation. They have to reintroduce the universe to a new generation. I cut it some slack. I hated Into Darkness with a passion. I hated that movie. That's why when Discovery was starting up, I'm like, well, it's not. I felt this doesn't seem like the Abrams people are behind it, so it might be good. And this people don't understand. I
That
genuinely
just
gave
goes to
Discovery
show
a chance.
everybody, Boomer doesn't listen to Troy. Just
This
throwing
was
that out
before
there.
I started talking to you, anyway. At least not outside of a chat. And here was my thought on Discovery. I was like, okay, rough first season, but it might get better in season 2. It actually got 100 times worse in season 2, and I
Yeah,
was
it
done.
sure did. It sure did.
Because there were things I liked in season 1. There were things I didn't like in season.
The only improvements that I admit that I'm a very tiny niche, even among the Star Trek fans, but they listened to the Klingon fans and they backed off of a lot of the most heinous stuff that they did to the Klingons, and some of the lore among the Klingons actually got pretty decent. The language was always spot on.
Okay.
So at least I can say that, but anything besides that, and that was such a small part of it after the first season that it hardly matters.
I felt like they made the Klingons like orcs, and they made the Federation like extra dumb. And I'm like, the Federation has been at war with other races prior.
Exactly.
Even this incident, they went up against the Xindi. I think they had a fight with the Romulans too. So they wouldn't have been that naive with the whole Klingon.
That is the worst part. If they had followed off of Enterprise, jumped ahead 7 years, and shown us in the middle of the Romulan War, we would be having a very different conversation today, because that would have also been an indicator that the people making the show actually gave a crap about Star Trek lore, which they fucking don't.
But moving on, let's read the article. Following the report on Friday morning that WandaVision director Matt Shakman is in the running to helm Marvel's upcoming Fantastic Four film, it's now being reported that he'll be leaving the fourth Star Trek reboot film as a result. Previously, Shakman was announced as the film's director in summer 2021 after he jumped to everyone's attention by directing all of WandaVision. Per the Hollywood Reporter, Shakman had to drop out of Star Trek 4 because of the scheduling conflict. A statement from Paramount reads, "Matt is an incredibly talented filmmaker, and we regret the timing didn't align for him to direct our upcoming Star Trek film. We are grateful for his many contributions, are excited about the creative vision of this next chapter, and look forward to bringing it to audiences around the world. A search has now begun for a new director, but it's clear if the film will be pushed back from its original Christmas 2023 release." This movie is not happening. They're blowing smoke up everybody's you-know-what. I don't see this happening. I'm tired of hearing about it. And I have a question. Okay, Paramount's been trying to get Star Trek 4 off the ground for some time now, even going as far to producer J.J. Abrams outright declare it was happening before actually signing on the actors of the reboot franchise. Before Shakman had signed on to the film was originally meant to be directed by Jessica Jones, S.J. Clarkson, before those plans fell through due to alleged issues with contract negotiations. Chris Pine has said before that he'd be down to come back, but it looks like the stars have yet to align to make it so. But given all the effort being made to do a new Trek film, is it worth it at this point? The franchise has had much better luck with television, where it's thriving in both live action and animation. Maybe it's time for Paramount to accept that and let sleeping starships lie. Again, I have no idea how well these Paramount Plus shows are doing. Maybe they do have a big audience. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to prove that or not, but they keep making more of them. This is something I don't understand either, like having 4 or 5 shows going at once. I think they should focus their energy on one show and just make that as good as you can possibly be, and then worry about the other stuff later. But I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's
what was I thinking though?
What were they thinking? That's the question.
How are they going to get all the actors back for this Star Trek 4? Like Zoe
They're not.
Saldana?
Remember the last time
She's
they
in the
made
MCU
this
right now.
The last time they made an announcement about it, all the stars were like, "Really? We heard nothing about this. This is news to us." So Yeah.
See, deleted scene says there's a script floating around the net called Star Trek: The Beginning. That's about a group of cadets who wind up fighting in the Romulan War. Sadly, it won't get made either. That'd be interesting. I'd like to see that. The only Star Trek movie I'll watch is the one Tarantino wrote the story for with Shatner starring. That would have kicked butt. I heard him talking in an interview once though
Yep.
about this, and I think he had talked to J.J. Abrams, and they mentioned the whole what was it 25% different
Yeah.
thing, and he was saying no. No, he's like, this is original series continuity. He's like, he doesn't understand this, like TNG original series continuity. He didn't understand this thing. Oh, it has to be in the Abrams verse or something. He was really thrown off by that. And like the interview, so you want to make your movie happen where everything else happened, like Sit in the Edge of Forever happened in your start. Yes, because he doesn't understand this 25% different Kelvin timeline. He was like, no, I'm not on board with that. He said it's going to be, it's going to be original Star Trek or nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's that's never going to happen either. That's really too bad.
Yeah, I don't know. He may be retired from directing for a while either. I hope he comes back. He had talked about wanting to do a horror movie, but he would, you know how there are all those horror movies based on books in the 70s? He said he wanted to take a horror book that had never been turned into a movie and make that now but like book from the 70s,
How cool would that be? I could only imagine that. That would actually probably be really, really good.
Because he never really did a horror movie. I mean, there was Death Proof, but that was sort of more like an exploitation type movie. I'd like to see him do like an actual horror movie, but moving on. Do you have anything else to say about Star Trek 4? Are you keeping your torch burning for that one?
I just laugh every time.
Did you like
people...
Star Trek Beyond? Did you see
Star Trek Beyond? No. After I saw the 2009 Star Trek movie, I refused to see anything else that came out in that line of films. So no.
No, well, they get worse because I told you, Into Darkness is awful. It really.
I didn't even get to Into Darkness. As soon as I heard the shit about the whole recasting of Ricardo Montalban, his character as some white British guy, I'm like, screw this, this bullshit.
Do you know who I think they were originally casting? I think Benicio del Toro.
That's who I'd heard, which might have worked. Yeah.
And then he dropped out probably because he read the script. Okay. And then we got Benedict Cumberbatch. And people are wondering, there was all this big secrecy as to who he was playing. And some said he was like a rogue Starfleet officer or something from that Section 9 or whatever that was, and people thought, okay, well, that's a perfectly fine villain. But no, they end up having it be him being Khan. And they're like, and they were also thinking, couldn't they have had him be another one of the genetically engineered tyrants? Weren't there a bunch of them? In fact, they even said, I think in the history books, Khan, while bad, was one of the milder of them. Like there were worse ones. Well,
there's a lot of lore there, but clearly they were not paying any flipping attention to that.
This had to be a different eugenics experiment than if they wanted to even go that route, instead of having, because they wanted to do their own weird pseudo remake of Star Trek 2. Where they reverse things and stuff and think they're being clever, and it's like, you don't try to remake the fan favorite Star Trek movie. You do something new, which is what they did in the past. They would do a new kind of movie, and just, I don't want to think about this anymore. I've wasted too much breath on this.
I know it does. This is what we do for you folks. We put ourselves through the stress and the agita and the heartburn and the heartache.
Oh, by the way, spoiler: Captain Pike gets killed at the beginning of Star Trek Into Darkness. Because they went to all. I thought the one good thing I liked about the Abrams, okay, finally Pike has a halfway decent ending where he doesn't get stuck in that box and he gets to retire and be like an admiral in Starfleet or whatever, and Kirk takes over the ship. But no, then they get to kill him at the beginning of the next. Critical Drinker has a good review of Star Trek Into Darkness if you want to know more about it. But
yeah.
DC Comics artist Jorge Molina responds to publisher's cartoonish edit of his Green Lantern-centric Titans United Blood Pact Hispanic Heritage Month variant cover.
Yeah,
let's get Latino Heritage Month.
Oh, we're lucky they're not calling it Latinx Heritage
Okay,
Month.
all right, okay. Because Hispanic is language, not ethnicity, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that ship has
I don't
sailed
know.
already.
DC Comics artist Jorge Molina is less than thrilled with DC Comics after the publisher repurposed his shelved Hispanic Heritage Month variant cover for the upcoming Titans United Blood Pact from a sweeping tribute to a noted Mexican artist into a cartoonish tribute to performative diversity. If you want to see the actual pictures, you can click on the link.
Actually,
Down in
you
the
know what?
comments
Give me just a second. I'm going to pull it up for you. Here is the let me share with
Let me know if I have to do anything.
I'm doing the boomer thing where I got to share screen. Here it is. Go ahead. So they can see what the artist originally did and what DC Comics decided to change it to.
Yes. So on the left, that's the original artwork, and it's the flag of Mexico, and it's the Green Lantern symbol, and um, it's actually not funny, but it's this is like something out of like a Christopher Guest mockumentary movie, right? This is like when Ricky Gervais is complaining about the play Home for Porn, and it's like, well, I don't know why it has to be Home for Porn. A lot of people don't know what that is. You don't see me as a Gentile saying, "Hey, look at my foreskin," and it's stuff like. And he goes, why don't you call it something like Home for Easter?" Because that forms a Jewish holiday aneway.
Right.
My point is this. Look at this. To the left. The left actually is very. I think actually it wasn't finished either. By the way, he had, because some of the Green Lantern symbols aren't on the costume, but it was like a pro. He didn't finish it, and then to the right is the one they go with the Hispanic heritage thing, Viva Mexico. In case you didn't know what the Mexican flag looked like, and a bag of tamales that he must have gotten at a Mexican grocer.
Yeah. Let me just so everybody has kind of an idea of, and I think you're seeing my whoops.
Yes, I am. I can get off it or leave it on there.
Shoot. No. Stay there. I'm just trying to bring up, where is it? Oh, damn it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to bring up a picture of the original inspiration. Unfortunately, I can't.
I'm just waiting for my heritage to get boiled down to pot stickers. Yeah, that's
right. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And we're talking. Here we go. This is probably the easier way to do this. Open image tab. Here it is. This is the original. Okay. This. Are you seeing that? The La Patrina by Jorge Gonzalez Camarena.
So it's
you can see what he was going for. That was, you look at that, and I mean, look at this. You've got the actual real Mexican flag, right? You've got the winged serpent.
Except made with the Green Lantern ring, yeah.
Made with the Green Lantern ring, right? You've got It's very clear that the character is evoking that, and then to reduce it to "Viva la Mexico, me quiero Taco Bell."
It's not funny. It's
exactly what he's doing. No, it's what this is their interpretation of. I mean, what a backhanded, pat on the head to the Latin community. We're showing we love your culture. See what we're doing. We're good social justice warriors here supporting you. Viva Mexico.
And have a tamale.
Here, and we know you like tamales, right? And you carry them home in plastic bags because you get them at the grocery store.
Not that there's anything against tamales, but it's a reduction.
I mean, if this was Italian Heritage Month, which I'm unaware of, I have not seen an Italian Heritage Month. But could you see him walking with
what, the Columbus?
Forget about it flag and a bag that's got
Cannolis.
Yeah, not even. No, it would probably be like ragu and what's it called?
Egg noodles?
Not even. What is
Chef
the
Boyardee.
Franco-American cans of pasta? The O's, SpaghettiOs. Thank you.
I guess for the Irish, it would be a sack of potatoes and a 6-pack, right? That would be.
No, it would just be booze. It would just be
Just
booze.
be booze, and it would be a horrible, scraggly red beard, foul red beard, and it would be just. I'm telling you.
No. Okay.
Just-
That's.
I mean,
Yeah,
it makes sense
I'm
because
just
you have green in the Mexican flag too, so I think it goes with that whole green line.
Oh, so they just changed the words and they can make it Irish, right? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay. The Viva Mexico cover almost looks like it's an old comic from Assistant Editors Month. Oh, please! They don't even have assistant editors over there now. This is a disaster. Okay, but yeah, DC Comics
And the artist, published his original on social media and said, "Good news, everyone! I'm excited to share the official DC Historic Heritage Month cover for Titans United Blood Pack #1. The homage to La Patrina is what is going out on the comic. Sorry for the confusion. The edited version I drew was an alternative option, not final." Yeah, probably because he took the time to go to social media with it and say, don't let them do this bullshit.
Yeah, because basically he says, I did this cover for DC for the Hispanic Heritage Month, explained the artist of the piece, Kyle Rayner, having a Mexican background, and being Mexican myself. It was a great honor to have the opportunity to pay tribute to my country and roots. That's why I decided to pay homage to Jorge Gonzalez Camarena. And
Yep.
Mexican muralist I admire. So this is an actual artist that, of course,
Right.
when he went to art school, he probably studied his work, I'm sure. And just how this image got promoted by DC is a mystery to me. Don't know if it was a mistake or in the end they decided to go for it included. There is a variation of this cover, but I'm so glad this one is out there for the world to see, since this was my original idea paying homage. Fortunately for Molina, it has been confirmed that this cover's promotion as part of DC September Solicits was a case of the former, or and even worse, the version that didn't make it to print has been revealed to be an almost cartoonishly offensive edit of his original work. That did make it to print. Okay, making its way to social media the weekend of August 27th, the new cover sees Rayner's grand construct replaced by the mere act of holding a bag of tamales and waving the flag of Mexico, so for a lifeless flag construct which reads "Viva Mexico." As the cover began
Let
to make
me just say, this kind of stupidity not only undermines the intent of honoring a culture, it desperately underscores how off base DC Comics is and the people running it. It shows what ridiculous, racist assholes they got running the company now.
Here's an idea. They always talk about hearing other people's voices. Maybe ask the artist that made this, the Mexican descent, what he would find appropriate, getting his input. Aren't they the ones always telling us to listen? Apparently they weren't doing the same thing themselves.
Right. He actually, did something that would honor his heritage, and they're like, yeah, but we know better. We know what people really want to see.
One thing, too, if they made this, and of course I gag at it, too, but maybe somebody was that naive and said, okay, no, this is why you shouldn't put this out there. Don't reduce us just to the food or whatever. It's okay, and then move on. But that's not what happened.
I get the distinct impression he tried to do that behind the scenes, and it wasn't going anywhere. So he took to social media and said, okay, I'll show you.
He said, hard to keep my mouth shut, and wrote the artist. So he's probably under contract. He can't say anything, but he's probably wanting to say something. He says, all I can say is one has my signature and the other one doesn't. Go figure. Okay, so I think we know what he means by that. One he approves of, one he does not.
The community unanimously supported him. DC Comics is in no position to give him any shit about this. They really aren't. If they did, there would be a huge blowback on that as well.
I think DC is trying to save face with damage.
Trying, sure.
I mean, they could have run this by a few Latinos. Yeah, that's what I'd mentioned over there before they saying, hey, is this okay? Yeah. Maybe get the actual opinion, because if we're going to step in
And frankly, guys, this is it speaks so much to the woke culture these days. People that have no flippin' clue with their virtue signaling, they need to sit down and shut up. That's what it really comes down to.
So yeah, apparently they never did.
Yeah, I was just saying that, Fuff. I read his most recent one where he basically said, I didn't mean to, mislead. No, he got out in front of it before it went to press. Because if he hadn't, you damn well better believe that's what was going to happen. Because someone over his head had decided, you don't have that quality of artwork and then rework it with that much effort to waste your time or for a joke or, what about this idea? No, that's something you do as a black and white sketch. No, they were ready to go to press with that fucker.
Plus, it's a plastic bag. You think they think of the environment?
Good point. Just as a side point, but yes, a very good point.
Green Lantern? I don't think so.
But yes, he's right. Even if it was meant never to be seen, it was inappropriate. Yeah, I might say it. Okay, well, maybe it was a joke if someone did a pencil sketch, but this was fully inked and colored. They were ready to fucking go to press with it.
Okay, well, moving on from to the movie side of DC, huh?
Okay, let's rip them apart there too.
Ezra Miller.
Yay, he's back. I knew he would be.
They is back.
They is back.
Yeah,
they am back. Okay, because
anyway.
we've lost track of how English works these days.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, just like nobody knows how Spanish works anymore because they're just sticking in Latinx
And tamales.
And tamales, right. And Viva Mexico. Did you notice in Viva? Okay. Anyone who spoke Spanish even notice that Viva Mexico with two exclamation points at the end? That's not how Spanish works. Spanish would have an inverted exclamation point at the beginning. You dumbasses. You didn't even get the language right.
Yeah, you have a point there. You learned that in, Spanish 1.
I know. I learned that my freshman year in high school.
Okay.
And I got a C in the class.
Yeah. Spanish was odd. I had to retake that in college. I'm like, why do I have to take a foreign language? I took Spanish. And I'll admit this as an English major, I will make a point out about something. I actually did understand the value after I took Spanish, because you learn to appreciate English better when you study another language and say, oh, this is how this other language works.
I've said that for a long time. If you study language, you will have a better appreciation of all languages, not just your own. And even you learn culture, too. Specifically, you will learn the culture of the language you're learning, but you will understand the difference of how language impacts culture, how we think about things differently, how morons that only speak English and have never gotten outside the United States have concepts of gender that make absolutely zero sense to any Latin speaking country.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of gender, it doesn't work the same way in language. Don't go effing around with other people's languages you don't understand.
I don't know. I'm now thinking back to that DC cover and somebody saying, well, you should have seen the cover we wanted to use. Something
that would not help their case at this point.
That's the line from This Is Spinal Tap. I don't know if you've never seen that.
I haven't seen it yet. It is on my list. I promise.
Joke. Okay, they're I think the band's agent, or I think their liaison with the record company or whatever, played by Fran Drescher, and she was
awesome.
She was like, listen, we don't. The Walmart is not going to carry this album with the cover, and
she was more like, listen, Walmart is not going to carry. No, sorry.
Oh no, but in full Fran Drescher mode in this movie,
right?
And she is she's going and she's saying that listen, you had a greased down naked woman with a dog collar around her neck and someone holding a leather glove up to her face telling her to sniff it, and you don't call that offensive?
Yeah.
And then their manager said, You should have seen what they wanted to use. It
Yeah.
wasn't, believe me. You know, it was just. You thought that was offensive. You should have seen the cover they originally wanted to go with. It's like, oh, I don't. It's a funny movie. You'll
I'll
lose
tell
your.
you.
You can't watch it with the full mouth of anything. You'll spurt it out. It's that funny. Okay, but anyway, getting on to
Ezra friggin' Miller.
Okay. This was one of the most consequential weeks in DC's history, Warner Brothers. Discovery seems to have found the executive to lead the division film and TV efforts. There were funeral screenings for canceled movie Batgirl and the movie... What? No.
Doesn't surprise me. Because these fanatics actually take this stuff that personally.
And the moving of major tentpoles, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, revealed the shifting sands under the newly acquired studio. Amid all the bustle this week on the Burbank lot, one could have easily missed a pair of figures walking around the offices and heading to a meeting of the highest order. But that's what Ezra Miller, the star of Warner's high-profile DC movie, The Flash, and their agent, CAA's Scott Metzger, did Wednesday, the same day a Batgirl screening took place. Miller, who uses they them pronouns, and Metzger met with new Warner Brothers film chairs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy to discuss not only how to stay on the course for the Flash's June 23rd, 2023 release date, but to reaffirm their commitment to the movie as well as apologize for bringing negative attention to the production and the company. Over the past 2 years, Miller has been at the center of arrests and controversy, culminating with the actor posting a mea culpa August 15th and saying they were seeking help for mental health issues. Said the actor at the time, "I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior." According to sources, Miller vowed to seek help after learning that DeLuca and Abdy were considering all options for Flash, including scrapping the $200 million movie if things devolved further with Miller. While the actor is said to not have minded the stream of bad headlines, they were spooked by the notion of the film getting canceled and jolted to take action, says one source. They care about the Flash. It's one of their favorite characters to play. Details of the meeting were not revealed, but it was the first time that Miller had spoken with DeLuca and Abdy, who took over running the film division at the beginning of July and inherited a DC slate in various stages of post-production. The actor was apologetic and affirmed their commitment to both getting care and to the production. Warner's had no comment, and Miller's representatives could not be reached for comment. I have my own theory on the current state of affairs with this movie, and this is where I think the Warner execs are. Keep in mind that this is all about the money right now. And right now, Flash.
Rightly so. I'm not gonna fault them for that. Let's start with that baseline because let's face it, people. That's why movies get made, is to make money.
I'm thinking in regards to Ezra Miller. This movie, if it could even just break even, that would be better than what was going to happen to it if they had to outright cancel it or throw it on HBO Max. I think the idea is they're going to try to see what they can do to reform Miller's image before this movie comes out, see how it performs, and then I guess decide after that what to do with Ezra Miller going forward. They could end up dropping it for another actor. They could simply not have the Flash another movie for a little while. That's another possibility because let's face fact, we haven't had another movie. We've had Captain Marvel doing little cameos here and there in the movies, but she hasn't even been in a main Marvel movie for a while. You can go for years not featuring a Marvel character, so I assume the same could file for DC. And then when the time comes to bring the Flash back, you can just have a new actor cast in the part. But I think they need to maintain audience interest in this at least so it can at least at the very worst break even. I think that's
the only way I could accept this, because this is actually sounding like a whole lot of bullshit to me, is if that meeting consisted of, look, we're going to do everything we can to save your ass and save this movie. If you fuck up again, if you so much as, say boo that gets into the news, you're fired, and we're going to sue your fucking ass.
I don't think they're interested in saving Ezra Miller unless this movie does incredible box office. Then that might save
And it's not going to. I don't think so. I think it's going to do. It's not going to make money with as much as they spent on it, which as much as they've spent to market it, and as many times as it's been pushed off. Even if it does really well, it's probably not going to break even. If you also add to it all the people that refuse because Ezra Miller fucked that asshole.
I don't need to hear. Anyway, let's move.
Oh, excuse me. Fuck they, them, multiple assholes.
Okay. Bat, them, they.
No, seriously. The only time I would use they, them. He wants to use they, them pronouns. He better do every fucking thing in public with another person. That's the only way I say they and them in relation to him and another person.
Ezra will stop using those pronouns if it ceases to be fashionable. That's my opinion on this. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's single-handedly embarrassing the hell out of the they them community. They don't want to be associated with him.
I don't know.
By they, I mean multiple people, so it applies.
There you go. Okay. I don't know. I'm just kind of just. Let's see. Real quick. Are we drinking tonight? I need to know. I am having a not flattering drink that Troy would make fun of me. I have a botanicals infusion, strawberry, lemon, orange blossom, fused with some cold water here. Caffeine free. What do you think?
That's fine. I'm having a caffeine free soda myself. It's Diet Squirt. Want to make sure I stay hydrated because you wake up with a headache if you don't. So
there you go. Skipper Kenner agreed.
Netter's on the diet green tea mixed berry tonight.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not really excited about the Flash, Flash, I think they're just calling it. But I assume they're just trying to salvage a bad situation here. I probably would have preferred if they could have outright canceled or just recast, but I understand also the economic feasibility. I understand that right now are inheriting a mess. I am sympathetic to that.
They are looking at the least expensive salvation of this film. And as I always tell Netter, when you go for the cheapest option, it's usually the worst. They've chosen the worst option here.
Yeah.
They would have been better off taking a bigger loss than continuing to double down on this messed up dingbat.
I'm sorry. I am seriously thinking Captain Marvel, you don't necessarily have to tie that movie to the Snyderverse, and maybe just have frankly, they're two Snyderverse Justice Leagues. They're two Snyderverse Justice Leagues anyway, but
right.
they could always just pretend that they started over with Captain Marvel and that Aquaman and this Flash movie are wrapping up the Snyderverse. And if they want to use the same actors, they can do that and just give them
and honestly, if you want to do something down the line that's Flashpoint adjacent or Crisis related, you explain away the inconsistencies. Those previous universes were alternate universes, and you just happen to have Jason Momoa playing, Awkward Bro in both universes. No problem. Done.
We haven't even seen Henry Cavill's Superman for ages, not since the Justice League movie. So they could.
By the time they do another thing with Superman, he may have aged out. So they better get their shit together if they do want to use him again. DC is just...
It's a mess.
A smoldering mess. And if you didn't think it was before, wait till the next article.
Yeah, well, DC Fandom 2022 canceled. WB issues, Warner Brothers issues statement. So, this year's DC Fandom has been canceled, ending a 2-year run. The virtual event hosted by DC Comics.
Wait a minute. Before we do go on, I love the last comment that just came up from Skipper Kenner. I accept that there are two DC cinematic universes, the 1966 Batman and the Lego Batman. You don't have any room in your heart for Michael Keaton Batman? Really? A2, Fufay? Really?
I think it's just being funny. But Michael Keaton Batman, I like the Michael Keaton Batman movies. Of course, it had that thing where the Joker murdered his parents that always irked me a bit, but I do love Jack Nicholson's Joker in that. I know I might be in the minority. I know people love Heath Ledger or Mark
And
Hamill.
and even though you're right, I agree. You should stick to the Chill thing. I do like that Tim Burton as a writer was trying to. Well, actually, he wasn't the writer, was he? He was the director. Whoever it was that wrote that movie.
No, the
Was it
screenwriter-
Goyer?
No,
It wasn't-
no, I don't know who the screenwriter was, but he said in the documentary that was not in his script. He was telling Burton not to have the Joker be the guy that shot Batman's parents, and then he wasn't on the set one day, and Burton shot the scene. So the writer did not put that in.
So it was Tim Burton that decided
That was
that.
all
And I
Tim
do
Burton.
kind of understand it because it like so many other things in comic book movies, you take a lot of lore that can be very complicated. You want to try to truncate it, kind of, streamline it. I get that. This was not the place to do it, but I do get the writing.
So with the guy killing his parents was a no-name criminal, it doesn't have to be. The idea is that it's just the criminal element Batman's trying to bring down, not a specific person. Do you understand? You understand what I'm saying? I always consider that in the comic for a while. That was what it was in the comic book. It was just some random street thug, that shoots his parents, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Skipper Kenner makes a great point. He says the Michael Keaton Batman was the start of the gravel chewing Batman talkers. Yeah, he's right. He's not wrong. Although I will say that the darkness of the Batman we can blame on Frank Miller. Frank Miller, you can love his Batman stuff, but it was the death knell to the DC that we grew up with, and it resulted in what we've ended up getting in cinema since then.
Do you know who voiced? They did one of those, those DC animated movies we've been watching on Magic Channel. They did do a 2-part adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. Do you know who did the voice of Batman in that? Peter Weller.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, especially since he was another 80s icon. But DC fandom canceled. Yeah.
Yep.
Are we shocked, upset? I mean, this is.
I'm only shocked that they haven't tried doubling down. I'm curious about what's going on behind the scenes.
The virtual fan convention will not be taking place this year following the return of in-person events around the world, according to Warner Brothers Discovery. While it's unclear if this is the only reason, DC's upcoming slate of films did just have a big presence at San Diego Comic-Con, likely contributing to its decision to no longer host the virtual convention. With the return of in-person events, Warner Brothers Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic-Cons around the world and will not be scheduling DC Fandom for 2022, a statement from Warner Brothers Discovery reads. Speculation around DC Fandom has been running rampant since DC's presence at San Diego Comic-Con was announced. Coupled with the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery recently moved the dates of several projects while also planning to sell off various films and television series, it left fans wondering if there would be anything to even show at something like Fandom. Now it looks like the company will simply return to in-person events, with their next step being New York Comic-Con in October.
And it also sounds like those fan speculations were not only valid, but they blew their wad knowing in advance that they weren't going to be doing Fandom. They just hadn't announced it yet, is what I think.
Frank Miller's comics was genius, but he was popular and became way overplayed and overused, kind of like Wolverine was for a while. I've heard people really praise his Daredevil run.
That works much better with Daredevil and Marvel. That does not belong in Batman and.
To be fair,
DC.
though, I will say this for Dark Knight Returns. I do think it's a good story, but I don't think it's meant to be continuity.
It was only ever intended to be an Elseworld type story. It was never meant to be mainline, DC Comics.
Yeah, I don't know. I know one ending with Batman had him end up retiring as Batman and marrying Talia Ghul. I think that was one Batman writer had that be the final end for Bruce Wayne, but I don't know if.
But yeah, I also think that the cancellation of Fandom is a big. I see it as a bit of an indictment of the whole concept of the virtual convention, which never worked. It has not worked, people. It clearly hasn't. All of these conventions that tried it lost money on the deal. Because otherwise, wouldn't it make sense to keep doing it, even though the mandates and all this kind of stuff have been lifted and people can go to physical things? Wouldn't it be better to do it virtually so you could have a bigger audience? Clearly not. It doesn't matter. They're still, financially more viable if they could get physical seats, butts in seats, so to speak.
Instead of being able to pay for a virtual room with your favorite creator, that sort of thing.
People weren't friggin' doing it. They really weren't. The only people that were YouTubers that had a channel and were talking about what was announced there. I didn't have to spend money to go find out what was being announced. I could watch, whatever, Geeks and Gamers or whatever, and find out.
Would you get access to like merch through a virtual store that only you had access to through Fandom? Was that how that worked too?
Yeah, but that really didn't go over very well either, because when I don't know about Fandom specifically, but I know that when Hasbro was going to make some stuff available during those 2 years of lockdowns through Celebration, and Celebration wasn't happening. They just moved them to PulseCon, not PulseCon, yeah, PulseCon, which was their virtual version of it. But even though it was in quotes exclusive to PulseCon, they made it available on their Hasbro Pulse website. So that's how I ended up getting, for example, the Emperor's Throne Room from the Vintage Collection and some other things. It's like, so what's the point of even paying to go to this exclusive online convention if I'm just going to be able to buy it through your regular outlet anyway? I think Hasbro has also found out they get a lot more sales if they put it to the general public through their website than making things exclusive on some con that nobody's friggin' going to.
Yeah, but, it's also the experience, right?
They don't give a fuck about the experience. There's no money in an experience for them.
All right, moving on to Red Sonja.
Let's kill another franchise, why don't we?
Okay, Red Sonja reboot finally filming with Matilda Lutz. I realized the 2 articles I sent you on this, they were pretty much parroting the same, so I just used one of them. All right, so I took one.
Pick whichever one. I
just picked the one. All right, so Millennium Media's big screen adaptation of Red Sonja seems to have found its new lead-in, Matilda Lutz, who has been tapped for the title role with other cast additions including Wallace Day and Robert Sheehan. The film is now finally kicked off production in Bulgaria under the direction of Solomon Kane Helmer, MJ Bassett, after years in development hell. Now, I have nothing against this new lead actress, but I did want to point out she is also not a redhead.
Yep.
So, people are praising this casting decision. Well,
hate the gingers once again.
I mean, maybe they'll dye her hair, and they probably could have dyed the hair of the last actress they were going to use. I think people were going nuts over the last actress, but they're praising this one. I'm not quite understanding it. And I have nothing against either of these actresses that were going to be playing her. I actually did like Hannah John Kamen. She has a lot of cred in the science fiction community. She was on, I think, Killjoy. She did voiceover work in Dark Souls. I didn't realize that the video game franchise. She reads comics. She's not, but it was a scheduling conflict, which is why she's not doing this now.
Mm-hmm.
Red Sonja is inspired by the Dynamite Entertainment comic books and has been a dream project of Bassett for some time. Speaking to Deadline, he explained, "I wanted to make a Red Sonja movie since I was a teenager. She has been a powerful presence for me and a character that I have always wanted to bring to the screen with my own voice and vision. When I met Matilda Lutz, I knew she had all the magic I was looking for and could see the complexity and depth she would bring to Sonja. The lead role in Red Sonja was originally played by Hannah John Kamen, but due to a scheduling conflict, she was forced to step aside. It seems that the change around worked out well." Along with Bassett, Millennium Media's president Jeffrey Greenstein was quick to praise the actress as well as the director. He commented, This has been a long journey from script to screen, and we are excited to go into production after assembling the best creative team and amazing band of up-and-coming talent and a fun, fantastical world fueled by Red Sonja IP. MJ is an amazing filmmaker with fantastic vision, and Matilda is absolutely brilliant in Revenge that we knew she was right for this role the moment we saw her, making them the perfect duo for Red Sonja. I got scared. I thought there was another pronoun thing. Okay. Question. Have you heard of this actress? I'm not saying anything.
No, I haven't.
Against her. I'm just maybe people in the chat have. Let's set aside the question of red hair. Why do we keep casting twigs as Amazonian women?
Good point.
I don't know. Any chance of? Hold on. Any chance of Red Sonja donning her chainmail bikini like it's Cheesecake Female Warrior?
Yeah,
they are going to treat
about the same chance as a iceberg in hell.
Yeah, she looks nice. She's not a Gina Carano. Yeah, well, no, I mean she's nice. Like I said, I'm not attacking this actress. I don't know anything about her, and who knows? This movie could end up being good, but we'll see. Okay, it has not been an easy journey for the new iteration of Red Sonja, having started back in 2008 with Rose McGowan, expected to take on the role made famous by Bridget Nielsen in the 1985 movie, which also starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. McGowan dropped out of the movie following injuries that left her with permanent damage to her right arm, and subsequently Amber Heard was at one point said to be taking on the role, but that also fell
that ain't gonna happen now.
Okay, as well as lead star issues, the movie has also gone through numerous writers and directors, having originally been set to be helmed by Simon West, then Bryan Singer in 2018 until his firing a year later. That was probably, there was a scandal associated with him, I think. And in 2019, Joey Soloway was linked to the project after Soloway's departure, along with John Kamen in March this year. Now looks like Bassett is now set to finally bring the movie to the big screen. After suffering so many setbacks, there are bound to be questions about whether this time around the movie will make it all the way. But with production already underway, it certainly has moved on further than previous efforts. There is currently no release date set for the movie, but if all goes well, the movie could arrive sometime in late in 2023. How do we feel about Red Sonja, this character? Did you ever read her comics?
No, I was only tangentially aware of her through, well, obviously the Brigitte Nielsen film, and seeing the artwork, in relationship to Conan and so forth. Got a lot of the history kind of filled in by Midnight's Edge. Andre has done some really great stuff talking about the history of the rights and stuff related to Conan and Red Sonja. He just last week he did a great one talking about the background on Red Sonja and how she was very different a character than what she became. And what most people think of her as. Most people, I think of Red Sonja now as like just a female Conan, and that really wasn't the original plan for the character. But
let's not have her dressed like a Boris Vallejo fantasy picture. It's going to provoke me into quoting passages from Sex and D&D from Dragon Magazine's cartoon. I'm not familiar with that. Was that a thing? Was that a complaint or something?
Oh, it certainly is now. It's all the the thing about boob armor and da 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 da, and it really is the joke, right? I mean, this whole idea that dressing in fantasy male for women to be sexy is not going to give any protection in combat. Well, no, of course not. But then again, Conan the Barbarian's out there running around with briefs and nothing else.
Yeah.
This is not about armor, you dumbasses. This is about covering the naughty bits so we don't get an X rating.
And on some of those original Weird Tales covers, the naughty bits wouldn't be covered on some of the women.
Well, that's true.
Margaret Brundage, who actually was a female writer, female artist that did a lot of those covers. She was the one making
a female misogynist, self-hating, right? That's what they would say now.
I actually have a book of collection of her covers, actually, and of course Boris Vallejo, of course, bought it back later.
Both great artists, really. And, all jokes aside.
No, we can't have nice things. I have another Red Sonja article.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to make of this one. Uh, Borat star Sacha Baron Cohen turned down a lot of money to star an upcoming Red Sonja reboot. I'm a little confused by this. Last week we learned that Millennium Medium's Red Sonja is finally shooting in Bulgaria. The movie has been through a number of filmmakers and a few different leading ladies, but Matilda Lutz will now play the title character, movie helmed by MJ Bassett. Joining her in the cast are Wallace Day, Robert Sheehan, blah, blah, blah. Okay, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Borat star Sacha Baron Cohen was approached to play the villainous magician Kulan Goth in this movie about the she-devil with the sword. Millennium wanted him to lead the cast alongside Hannah and John Kamen, but the actor, coming off the back of an Oscar nomination for his work in The Trial of the Chicago 7, turned down a whopping $7 million offer. He was in high demand at the time, of course, and that opportunity was presented to him when Joey Soloway was at the helm. Since then, the screenplay has been rewritten, and we no longer know if the character will appear. No, according to this, it's going to be her sister as the villain.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we get another woman in there. Can't have another white guy, right?
Well, I have
even
a
as the
question,
villain.
though. This is the Borat guy, right?
Yes, it is.
You see him in a Red Sonja movie as the villain?
The only thing I could have seen him in, he got passed over for. I could have seen him in the Freddie Mercury film, but they decided to go a different route, and so tack with it.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by Skipper Kenner's comment.
I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't cast a black woman to play Freddie Mercury these days. Just saying. Arnold sweating in his shorts with the good flapping in the wind during combat would be an excellent defense against close combat. Actually, you make a compelling point there. Skipper Kenner, I kind of, it's like, oh, stay away. Yeah, no, I'll just shoot an arrow from back here.
I did see the Solomon Kane movie they talk about. It was all right. I had some issues with it because it starts out, I think when he's seeking redemption, he's hanging out in a monastery for a while, and Solomon Kane, he's a Puritan.
Yep.
There shouldn't really be Catholic iconography anywhere in that movie because it's all Puritan folklore and stuff from his case. The best Solomon Kane story, I haven't read all of them, but one of the ones I loved was it starts out and this woman is fleeing this village, this young woman villager, and she's been stabbed and she falls to the ground, and Solomon Kane goes over to her and she goes, Leloup and his gang, they sacked our village, they killed everybody, and then she's dying, and Solomon Kane, he's dressed as like a pilgrim, with the buckle hat and everything.
Puritan, sure.
So he gives her sort of a last rites, says a prayer to God, take this child into your, and then she dies. And then Solomon Kane looks up in the story and he goes, men will die for this.
Oh, man.
Part of this. And he thought, or either he was commanded by God to seek justice or vengeance against the bad people of this, and it's all him. The rest of the story is him going around taking out members of this gang of French brigands that torched this village, and he's like from the Elizabethan age.
What really is kind of funny about that is the Puritans are supposed to be pacifists, right?
I think he was arguing that God was ordering him to, or maybe he's just nuts. I don't know, but
that makes for a compelling story too. Sure,
fascinating character because he really does have a strict moral stance. Like the villain of the gang says, "Oh, you took the money and you distributed it among the poor, but they're going to fight over." So, yes, I know it's a risk. Nothing is going to be perfect because of this, but he had to do something with the money, right?
Right.
So he tried distributing it around the villagers that could use, like the poor that could use it or something. But and it's just he was a fascinating character, and I'm looking forward though. I know they're working on a series. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they maybe stay true to the character and the stories. And to be fair, I didn't hate the movie. It was all right. The main actor, James Purfoy, he was good casting for that part. He played Mark Antony on the iClaudius show on not iClaudius show, the Rome show on HBO. But,
right.
Yeah. But I know the Borat thing. It's the suspender thong. Yeah, I don't know.
I had to go with that. That was just so funny to me. I couldn't not.
Did you
You know.
know that Brett Ratner was once attached to direct a Conan movie?
No, I had
The
no
guy that
idea.
did Rush Hour? And I had a horrible thought of, you remember the Rush Hour movies, right, with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I saw at least
And
two of them.
I was expecting Chris Tucker to be like his adventuring companion in that, and
Yeah.
like he'd go up to Conan and he'd say, "Do you understand the
The
words
words that are coming out of my mouth.
I was expecting that to be, and like he'd make Conan dumb, say like, "Oh, Conan like peanuts, like talk like George of the Jungle or something."
Exactly.
I was expecting this to be a disaster. I was like back in the day, but he never ended up directing that movie though. But
As far as Red Sonja goes, I would encourage everybody to go check out Midnight's Edge. They go into far more detail than we ever could
yes,
about a lot of the behind the scenes. The Borat thing is more just a joke on my part to be able to throw him in the banana schlong.
you're joking. That could have been him in the movie. You don't know.
I know, right? But they kind of cover, their and you can trust Andre. Andre's a big fan of Conan and Red Sonja, so he's got a very reserved and right thinking concept of what's going on over there. So he's hoping for the best, but he's seeing some possible worst. For me, though, I gotta say, this whole film, this whole Red Sonja thing, concerns about Borat and a non-ginger actress all aside, I will have nothing to do with this film. I will not see it. I will not support it. I will not be reviewing it. It's a complete non-starter for me, and this is why. Heroic Girls at San Diego Comic-Con 2022 tweeted out, "I love Sonja, but this is tricky material. What they need to do is start with Gail Simone's Queen of Plagues as their storyboard and go from there." Picked up and responded to by Gail Simone. "I have been a consultant on this film since almost day one. I'm out. I'm done. This is not Red Sonja. This is Gail Simone fan fiction. I want nothing to do with it." And this is another example of another franchise that steals the name of some beloved franchise to try to co-opt its fan base and gives you something entirely different. Sorry to Spartacus, we didn't get to anything related to the Rings of Power tonight, but there's another one where they give you the name of the franchise, but it has nothing to do with the actual lore. I would encourage you to, I just dropped a link, go check out Fresh Baked Nerd Cookies, who did a part one of a multi-parter talking about the Rings of Power. I think she covers it much, much better than I ever could. And in a lot of ways, Fresh Baked Nerd Cookies is the anti-Troy. Anti-Troy gets angry and loud and curses.
She's very calm.
And she's very soft-spoken and very mellow and very intellectual, and she outlines her arguments with good critical thinking and evidence and a clear knowledge of history and lore. I mean, her channel really is a lore channel. I just don't give a fuck enough about the people that would support this shit to be that calm. But she deserves the likes and subscribes, just saying.
Okay, so how about you take pity on your wife's poor ears and stop shouting?
I can't. It's just, I'm a passionate guy. I can't keep it in. It boils up and I just got to get it out.
You know who could have actually played at one point, or maybe even now, I don't know, Red Sonja? Sacha Baron Cohen's wife, Isla Fisher. Have you seen her? I think she's a redhead, or she at least is redheaded. She at least has dyed her hair red. She was in.
I have seen her. Yes.
She was in that one about the magicians. But yeah, she's been an Australian actress.
Yeah, the one with the one with what's his name?
I think she kind of looks like Red Sonja in some respects. I didn't think
Yeah,
about
she'd
that.
be great.
I could have seen her. Yeah, definitely. Okay, but anyway.
She's married to Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, well, someone.
Lucky guy. I
Yeah,
mean, my
tell me
gosh.
about it. Yes. Anyways, so moving on to our last article of the night. We'll keep you posted about Red Sonja. I'm excited. We'll see. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad. I think the director is good, but I don't know about adapting Gail Simmons' Queen of Swords. Of course, half the time when they adapt things, they fix what's wrong with them, so that could happen. You never know. Right,
Mhm.
right. And maybe monkeys will fly out of your butt. That's what you're thinking right now, right? Okay, we'll see. Not that I'm going to speak for you.
No, I've said my piece, and for Netter's sake, I need to rein it in now. So there we go.
Did you see the trailer for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
I did. Yes.
Okay. This is a Guardian article. Okay, when it first appeared back in May, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was met with an amused shrug. Sure, everything. This is an opinion piece. Okay, sure, everything else in the world was on a fast track expressway to hell. So why not make a horror movie about
Exactly.
A. Milne's beloved teddy bear transforming into a living nightmare and embarking on a bloodthirsty rampage? Nice idea. Good luck to all involved. But sometimes wishes do come true, because while Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey might have sounded like a one-gag pipe dream destined to be enshrined forever within Disney's litigious machinery, now there is tangible proof that the thing actually exists. The first Blood and Honey trailer has been released into the world, and for better or for worse, it is every single thing you ever thought it would be. I dare someone to walk into Walt Disney World wearing a Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey T-shirt. What would happen?
Oh yeah.
You'll get kicked to the curb so fast.
Probably. Very probably.
The story of the film appears to be this. Like all boys, Christopher Robin one day outgrew his cherished childhood toys and left the 100-acre wood to explore the vast horizons of adulthood. However, in his absence, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet grew malicious and resentful, apparently feasting on the forest animals for sustenance while plotting to wreak a terrible revenge on their one-time friend. And when Christopher Robin finally returns home, a bloodbath ensues. You know what needs to happen in this movie? I want Winnie the Pooh to say, "Goodbye, Christopher Robin." So that was the title of the movie about the writing of Winnie the Pooh, remember? Did you see that one? No?
Yes.
Robin. Okay, you didn't see that. Okay, Margot Robbie was in that, and the guy that played General Hux in Star Wars. But okay. The trailer paints film as a standard home invasion flick. Pooh and Piglet, while never shown face on, seem to be adult humans in animal masks, perhaps a nod to the forgotten Liv Tyler film The Strangers. They violently kidnap a bikini-clad young woman from one of the 100-acre wood's famous jacuzzis and daub "Get Out" across some windows in blood. They take a girl's eye, behead a woman in a swimming pool, and then ritualistically gorge themselves on honey. Had the antagonist been anyone else at all, Blood and Honey would be the sort of zero-budget horror that would find itself aggressively destined for the bargain bin. But the whole point of the film revolves around who the antagonists are. Up until now, Winnie the Pooh was known for his reassuring acceptance of the wider universe around him, so much so that latter-day revisionists had him pegged a Taoist. He was a creature of the simple life, taking every new day as it came, just happy to be a part of a beautiful world. There is, not that it needs to be spelled out, quite the gap between the mindset and the mindset of hideous sentient pig man who appears to be sexually aroused by graphic violence. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey knows this, which is why its entire trading currency is controversy. Hot out the gate, Rolling Stone has already called the film childhood ruining, and everyone involved in the making of the film has to be hoping that this is the narrative that continues until the film is released. It won't matter whether the film is actually any good or not, because the whole point of it is that it gets to subvert an innocent icon like Pooh. Yeah. I'm not so sure, though. Blood and Honey has popped into existence with incredible speed. We're promised a streaming release soon, but it's important to remember that Winnie the Pooh only lapsed in the public domain in January. Your sense that makers were desperate to get the first one out of the gate. You don't seize this quickly on a project, no matter how iconoclastic, unless there is real affection involved.
I love your reference to Taoism. There is a book that I'm sure that they were obliquely referencing there, the Tao of Pooh, and they're absolutely right with that. It makes me realize when I think about it that classic Winnie the Pooh reminds me a lot of our friend Big Al. He's a lot like that Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh, gotcha.
Not the one that goes around and kills people, you know.
Well, it's Chris Rowan's fault. That was Stuart Heritage that wrote that opinion piece. You can read the rest over at The Guardian. But it's it sounds like an SNL sketch. I'll be blunt, it kind of looks like one too in a way. It didn't look like they spent a ton of money on this thing, I'll be honest with you, just by looking at the...
I don't have a problem with that. Good horror films generally have lower budgets. They should.
The trailer makes the film a budget of about $100. They could probably make money out of it.
It sounds like an SNL sketch. Yeah. Well, not these days. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, yes.
Remember Chris Farley? Down by the river.
Down by the river!
I live in a house down by the river, and he would bring that up, and it's like Matt Foley. That was the guy's name he played.
Right.
Oh, I'm Matt Foley. I'm a motivational speaker. I've been divorced 3 times. Or something.
I don't remember what the sketch was he did where he plays the chat show host, and he interviews the guest, and he's like, "Remember when you said that thing? That was cool."
Yes, in that movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, I think he was interviewing Martin Scorsese about The Last Temptation of Christ. Remember that scene in the movie when Jesus was throwing the things around at the temple? It says, yes, that happened. It was in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, it was just... it's an indie film, yes. Well, yeah.
And again, some of the best horror films are indie films.
I am curious about this movie, I'll say that. I mean, I did watch the Disney... Winnie the Pooh from years back, where they had Ewan McGregor playing an adult Christopher Robin. That was kind of a cute movie. That was actually, I mean, I pick on Disney, but that was a cute little. I think maybe they were trying to make their own version of Paddington, because Paddington came around the same time, but it wasn't bad. And then Goodbye Christopher Robin, which is like a tearjerker because it shows the real life of the boy it was based
a heck
on.
Of a story.
And I really wanted Tom Hanks to be showing up as Walt Disney in Goodbye Christopher Robin and going up to the couple and saying, you know what, I used to have to deliver newspapers and bread bag shoes or something, like some story that. Well, because he's trying to get the rights to make a movie out of Winnie the Pooh, just like with Mary Poppins and all that.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just... to Disney it up. But Disney can't Disney up Winnie the Pooh anymore. He's public domain. Think Mickey Mouse is going to be coming up soon?
I hope so. They deserve it. They really do. I think I might be able to get behind a horror film based on Mickey Mouse. I totally could see that.
I could get behind a horror movie about Charlie Brown.
Remind me after the stream ends. I got something to share with you. Right along those lines.
I could see him finally snapping on Linus, saying, "There's no great pumpkin." It's all right, but well, geez, that's it for tonight. Oh my word, we're actually almost on time. We're
almost
like 7 minutes over, and it's a holiday tomorrow too. Slow news week, people, but we'll be back next time with some more brilliant stuff. Excited to give you some She-Hulk updates next week. I'm kidding, of course. Hopefully not. Hopefully there will be nothing left to say about She-Hulk for a while, because I ain't watching that show.
There's really nothing to say about it. I think we covered it, and I can't imagine there being anything else worth saying about the show. Just no.
Captain Marvel will guest star. That'll be the next big thing.
Oh, gosh. Well,
Willie is public domain, but not his other versions. Interesting.
Yeah. No, that's right. Well, the same thing with this. I mean, the original Winnie the Pooh is, but the Disney version of Winnie the Pooh is not.
What's interesting about Steamboat Willie, there was a video game made, Mickey Mania, the Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse, back in the 16-bit era. And the idea was they actually got Disney animators to do the animation for it too, but it was a 2D platforming game. And the idea was Mickey had to go back into his old cartoons. And I guess something was gone wrong. He basically was an adventure where Mickey had to travel through all the cartoons he'd been in, right? And the first one, the first level is Steamboat Willie, and it starts out in black and white because, of course, it was a black and white cartoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you actually run into Steamboat Willie, doing the toot toot on the boat, and they kind of look at each other because you realize, is Steamboat Willie really Mickey Mouse? Because they were treating Steamboat Willie like a different character, like a prototype.
It almost is,
and
yeah.
He
You're
runs
right.
off. He runs off when he sees regular Mickey Mouse. And then, of course, they did other levels. They did the Ghost Hunters one. Remember the Lonesome Ghost one and the Mad Scientist. And they actually did the Prince and the Pauper, one of the more recent Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 80s, I think, that they made. So that was neat. It was a neat little game, but which unfortunately will probably never get released on anything again. But oh well. Epic Mickey is my favorite Mickey Mouse video game. What's interesting about Epic Mickey is I didn't really play it, but I'd heard of the premise, and the idea is Mickey gets transported to a world of all the forgotten Disney stuff. Like there's stuff from Tron there.
Oh yeah.
All this stuff. And one of the characters he runs into is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald is a character in the game. And they actually have to work together, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and Mickey Mouse. It's kind of interesting. But yeah. I'm trying to think though. What do we got going on this week? I know on Friday. No Sanchez Bourbon this week. He's taking a trip. He's taking a trip to California. Wish him the best. But this Friday, I'll be doing an early stream on Big Al's channel. We're probably aiming maybe for around 7 p.m. I'm going to be doing a rewatch of the first of the pilot, the first 2 episodes of Robin of Sherwood. So something new we're going to be doing. And then I'll be on Troy's channel afterwards. I know you'll be having a special guest. You're having a lot of special guests lately. You had a great one on Friday.
It's kind of become my brand. Yeah. I kind of was inspired by Ryan Roger Athay, who is, doing the videos about the rising stars of YouTube, different YouTubers that he likes and thinks that other people would like to, and I decided I was going to take that to the next step and get people that I really enjoyed, get them on my channel and interview them and have a sit down and chat and drinks, and it just seems really on brand for me. So I've really enjoyed that. Yeah,
we had a pleasant conversation with a British gentleman who resides in Japan now, and
Gray of Wakazashi's Tea House. Which I think it's great that he's willing to work through the time difference to chat with me. We're gonna have to have him back on because we got so off track on so many things. I think he's worth.
We didn't get to talk too much about Japan, did we? We were talking about England, actually.
We talked a lot about it. It goes with the fact that I'm such an Anglophile, and I think a lot of people know that about me. But we'll try to stick to the topic this Friday.
See, for me, it's Italy. Italy's the country that fascinates me. But yeah.
Well, there's the Italy that we all imagine that is, and the Italy that actually is.
Don't spoil it.
Okay, we won't talk about it.
I like to imagine Italy as what it is in my head, okay? Because I don't know if I'll ever get around to getting there anyway. I
get it. Yep, this Friday I will be interviewing a young lady. Her channel's The Noob Review. That's Noob. She is getting into a lot of the comics that you and I grew up with. Those 70s and 80s comics. I'm encouraging her, and actually Pops on Pop Culture is encouraging her to get reprints. If you're gonna get originals, don't read them. Keep them nice for collector's value, but to read them, get the because let's face it, those reprints are much cheaper, and you can get like a whole year's worth of comics, those omnibuses and stuff, for a lot less money. But it's just a joy to watch her channel because I'll be like, oh, I remember that one. Oh, that was one of my first comics. Oh, and she's just reading it now and she's enjoying it, and she gives these takes that I totally get. She'll misunderstand something, and I'll be like, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, well, that's in the 70s. That's how they were doing Superman. But okay, you'll figure it out as you go. That's just like I did.
What's neat about her is obviously the classic criticism of like that there'd be, I don't want to say women in comics or something, but like, oh, well, you don't know this issue or this issue or this issue. And well, she's kind of admitting to that, but she's learning. She's reading all these
Yeah.
old comics herself, and
And this is exactly the kind of thing that the SJW reeing fourth wave feminists would not want you to believe about the fan community, that we don't take great love in a younger generation, a female group coming in and sharing that with us.
Yes.
You know, just like I would want to pass, if you were a baseball fan, you want to pass on baseball to your kids, regardless of their gender, okay? Same thing with us as comic book fans. I understand that what's out there right now is what you might be most exposed to, but I would love it if you took an interest in some of these older things that I have a fondness for. You would get like the framework for what led to what you're getting now. You know, and this young lady is, and she is, and keep in mind, I say young lady because she's young enough to be my daughter, but she's an adult married woman. It's not like she's a teenager or anything. So,
no, yes, but yeah, she'll be pleasant to have on Friday. And,
yeah.
I look forward to talking to her as well. And I've been to Italy, one of the few I went to as a tourist. Well, I hope you had a good time. Like I said, I'd like to check out. Oh, apparently he, well, or she, I don't know. Not that I'm going to assume the gender. You can never assume the gender these days, but yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is meant to be read or if it's just acronym USSARNG. Okay. You're going to have to let us know that because you know, I see you around a lot, and I've never really. Yeah. How do you say? USARNG. USARNG. Okay.
Well, welcome to the channel. If I haven't seen you before here, welcome.
No, yeah, he's recently he was there on Friday, and he joined. He sent me a friend request on MeWe, and USRNG, I sent you an invite to the Friday Night Last Call group on MeWe. I don't know if you accepted that or not, but that's a great place to see what's coming up as we're about to start going through what's going on throughout the week. We'll be posting those things on the group. But what do we have coming up this week, Aged Boomer?
No, nothing on my end because there's no Mr. Matchstick this week, and there's no Birdman. He'll be out of town. Okay. So Saturday, though, you're going to be on with Big Al, right? And it's going to be...
Saturday with Big Al is, give me a second, Porky's. An 80s comedy. So this isn't sci-fi, this is comedy. And it's one of those raunchy, R-rated...
You couldn't make that movie today.
You could not make that movie today.
The great Bob Clark actually made that movie. He also made A Christmas Story. Many of you have heard of that movie. He directed Black Christmas, which is one of my favorite, actually I'll say among slasher movies, my favorite slasher movie of all time. I think it's the best slasher movie ever made in the horror genre. And great movie to watch around Christmas time. I mean, I feel... It feels wrong to watch Black Christmas at Christmas time, but it is kind of still a Christmas movie.
You know, I'm planning a video for the holiday season. I've actually been planning it for a year. Planning it, meaning I thought of doing it last year and I've done nothing with it since then. But I want to do a video about the history of scary ghost stories at Christmas time. You know, there's that song from Most Wonderful Time of the Year. That's based on a real tradition that in the winter months leading up to Christmas, people used to sit around telling ghost stories. Why is that? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And
I wonder if that was also a Canadian tradition, because I know Bob Clark's a Canadian director, even though some of his movies obviously take place in the United States.
It's a British tradition. It goes back to the old world.
Well, I know it goes back to Britain too, because that's why A Christmas Carol is called A Christmas Carol, because it's about
exactly right, and that is I'll be talking about that in the video too. Absolutely. So I'm probably going to try to hit up Big Al to do a rewatch with me. In the Christmas season, that's, I don't know if it'll be Black Christmas or something like that, but something appropriately scary and Christmas themed, you know, maybe Krampus.
Krampus would be a good one too. Black Christmas is, in my opinion, the best if you like urban legends, like those
Yeah,
story from a friend of a friend of a friend, the kind you read about and like hear about like sleepover stuff. Black Christmas feels like an urban legend put to film, and it probably is based in part on some urban legends because some of the stuff in it is kind of off and doesn't make quite sense. And I think it really he
sure,
really was trying to evoke what an urban legend is like
sure.
if you were living one, and that's what that movie does. I mean, because
Can you
of course
imagine living through an urban legend if you'd never heard the urban legend before?
it's horrifying. They're not
I know.
always horrifying urban legends, but and also the body humor in it too. It still
Yeah.
has that Bob Clark humor, like the kind you saw in Porky's in some scenes,
I
like the
do have to
sorority
say,
mother that lived in the house and she's always drinking like her gin that she keeps hitting in the toilet and stuff. And
I
stuff
kind
like
of find it funny that I want to hold up Stephen Otten because he is such a hardworking Blue Wrench, but every single time we mention somebody, another channel or whatever, he's dropping the links, and we're going through them so fast. I picture him on his end, like on the keyboard. Oh God, what's that person's channel? Okay, and let me get that one. Oh, they're already 3 ahead of me. Let me get there.
there you go.
But
Yeah,
thank you so much, Stephen. We super appreciate
thank you so
it.
much. Sub to his channel.
And definitely subscribe to him if you don't subscribe to Deleted Scenes right now. He is 31 subs away from 150. I was so glad to see him get over
I would say
100.
one sub away from 120 because that sounds like just one more.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be the one that sets them over, so they all jump on. Right?
Well, I did the same thing. I was at 459. I wanted to get to 450. Put out a call on Twitter, and I got like 3 people to subscribe to me, and lost most of them, but it was enough to get me to the round number. So I'm like, okay, but that's what it takes. You need like 100 subscriptions just to make like 50. That's what it takes.
And be sure, whenever you subscribe to our channels, be sure to click on at least one of the videos. I mean, watch them all if you have the time, but obviously you want to watch a little bit so YouTube doesn't think you're a bot. And hit that like button as well.
And in fairness, I mean, I have, if you go check out Aged Boomer's channel, after the stream, he tends to take these longer form videos and break them down into their individual topics.
Yeah.
So if you get bored with, anything Gail Simone related, you could go check out, the.
Perhaps I'll do that tomorrow. I'll
yeah.
I'll do a quick
And
update.
I've got some videos that are just made toy videos and stuff like that have nothing to do with my live streams. So definitely worth checking out.
You ranted during the
Usarin
Red
G
Sonja
said he
video.
hates, and again, he's right. I'm assuming gender here, but there used to be a time when you'd say he when you didn't know if it was he or she, and people would just be okay with that until someone said, no, I'm a girl, or these days I identify as a girl, whatever. But I hate scary. Yeah, I get that. There are some scary I really do not like. There is some scary, which, let's face it, isn't really scary, I really do like, so. And there are some scary movies that I want to see, but they're so darn scary, I'll just keep hitting pause and walking away. Maybe come back, watch a little bit more, walk away. Just to get through it.
Shell chat, I don't know how X-Ray Girl does it on FNT. Who's X-Ray Girl?
This is
Well,
a chill
worry,
chat. I don't know how X-Ray Girl does it on Friday Night Tights.
Friday Night Tights. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to
I
check
don't
that
know.
out.
I do not know. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Some of those bigger channels have these really big panels. I can't. I think 4 is the max. 3 is good. 3 is, you know why 3 is good? Because like right now we're at 2 hours and I gotta pee like crazy, but I can't just leave you because then you're all on your own. If there was 3 of us,
talk for at least another half hour about random stuff, so you're out of luck.
I know, so I'm gonna end up messing myself anyway.
Y'all have
So
a good night. Have a happy
Fine.
Labor
I was on
Day.
both Geeky Geezers, and I came up with the channel name.
well, that's true. That's true.
Geeky Geezers.
Matter's awesome that way.
Y'all have a wonderful Labor Day if you have it off. If not, thank you for doing some labor on Labor Day. Oh, that sounded awful. Okay, y'all have a good night, and I'll talk.
Hopefully
to you
nobody's going into labor on Labor Day.
Hopefully not. All right, take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.